is coming to Provo looking for new recruits. KSL News Radio's Brianna Willis reports.
Federal agencies are on the hunt for more recruits as they crack down on illegal immigration. In a social media post from ICE, they announced they'll be in Provo on the 15th and 16th. KSL TV reports this is after several local law enforcement agencies have said ICE has attempted to poach their police officers with recruitment letters offering sign-on bonuses up to $50,000.
The head of the Utah Sheriff's Association called the move unprofessional. The same bonus appears to be open for any who sign up, including at the event. The Murray Police Department put a post on Facebook regarding working with ICE. The post says they have not partnered with any federal agencies for the enforcement of illegal immigration and that they do not intend to create a pact with these agencies. Instead, they said they're committed to providing police services fairly and equally for all within their community. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Jury selection in the trial of the man accused of trying to assassinate President Trump begins today. The suspect, Ryan Ruth, has pleaded not guilty to 5 felony counts, including attempted assassination of a major presidential candidate.
He has called Trump a bunch of names, all of them unflattering. He's questioned the legitimacy of having Judge Eileen Cannon preside over the trial because he said she's a Trump appointee. How is that fair? She's refused to recuse herself. All the while, lost in all of that rhetoric is the very serious nature of what he's accused of.
ABC News Chief Investigative Correspondent Aaron Kontursky reporting. Your money at this moment, the Dow in the positive by 69 points to 45,470. Coming up, we've got emergency traffic as you try to cross the valley on 201 and I-80 in Salt Lake City. KSL Traffic and Weather Together is next. KSL News Time 9:01.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
This is the story of the one. As a custodial supervisor at a high school, he knows that during cold and flu season, germs spread fast. It's why he partners with Grainger to stay fully stocked on the products and supplies he needs, from tissues to disinfectants to floor scrubbers. Also that he can help students, staff, and teachers stay healthy and focused. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
What is your next success story? At University of Maryland Global Campus, you can succeed again with more than 135 affordable online degrees and certificates to help you move your career forward. From cybersecurity and AI to healthcare and MBA, our programs help you build critical thinking, leadership, and communication skills that set you apart in today's job market. Designed for working adults, focused on the future. Classes start September 17th. Learn more at umgc.edu. Certified to operate in Virginia by Chev.
The Utah RV Super Show, the premier RV event of the year, is back at the Mountain America Expo Center Thursday, September 11th through Sunday, September 14th. Come see new 2026 models and special closeout pricing on all 2025 models. The Utah RV Super Show is offering family passes Thursday, September 11th for $10 per family. Unplug from distractions and plug into family at the Utah RV Super Show. Discount passes at UtahRVSupershow.com.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Do you spend half your day walking or standing while working? If you have foot, knee, or low back pain, the Good Feet store wants to help you like we helped Tony.
Pain that I experience the most is foot pain from being on my feet all day. You're having to kind of talk to yourself through the whole shift, like, I got this, I can do this. Before, I felt defeated, and now it's like, all right, let's go. I'm ready. A whole new life, like sunshine coming out.
And here's Dennis.
Working at an amusement park, it's always on your feet. I just couldn't take it, but I didn't have a choice. I just couldn't believe that putting these arch supports in made that much of a difference that quickly. Good Feet just took that pain away, and I could do my job, and I could take care of my family. I know what my tomorrow is going to be. It's going to be positive, and it's going to be pain-free.
You deserve a better life, too. Stop in the Good Feet store today. Walk-ins are always welcome. Or find the location nearest you and schedule an appointment at goodfeet.com.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
An emergency can happen any second. Here's a few seconds to think about where you'd go. When you need medical care fast, the closest emergency room is a smart thing to know. Common Spirit Health ERs are your direct path between feeling scared or uncomfortable and feeling better. Find emergency care in your neighborhood. at mountain.commonspirit.org.
Traffic is emergency traffic brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account. Let's get an update from Heather Kelly.
Well, this is 201 freeway eastbound, still at a crawl right now from Bangerter Highway all the way over to where you would transition to eastbound I-80, almost to State Street. It was due to an earlier crash at 700 East that was blocking half of the freeway. All those lanes are now open, but it's going to take time for the residual delays to clear out. You also still have delays northbound I-15 coming out of Draper all the way up to where you would merge to eastbound I-80. And then we've got a crash on the on-ramp from Redwood Road to head east on I-215. The right lane of that on-ramp is blocked, and that's causing delays in that area. You also have slowdowns remaining on Bangerter Highway northbound through South Jordan. That was due to a crash that's still in play at 9800 South, but now they have all those cars moved over behind the construction barrels. From system install to fast fixes to deliver award-winning heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical. Call Whipple Service Champions for the win today. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today will be sunny with highs in the 80s, but tonight some clouds will move in. There's a slight chance of showers after midnight. The rain could continue into tomorrow morning as well. Right now, 74 degrees and mostly sunny in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
And good Monday morning. Welcome to another week of Inside Sources. I'm Greg Skordas alongside Holly Richardson. And Holly, you love questions of the day, questions of the week.
Yeah.
What would you do? What could you do? What did you do, maybe, to keep your child off of the phone or off social media?
Well, for the first half of the kids, they didn't have phones. It wasn't even an option, right? So I didn't really do anything except to say, you're probably too young to be doing this, which is not very effective.
Well, no, I think that's actually what people should do. But however, we're learning that some parents are offering their kids cash or even cars to stay off their cell phones. Here's more details from KSL News Radio's Alexandria Bonilla.
Some parents say it's no different than paying them to do chores. Others say it's like companies that pay employees not to smoke or insurance companies that offer lower premiums for safe driving. The Wall Street Journal reports more parents are turning to money and other monetary gifts to keep kids off their phones, since they can often work around parental controls. Other health professionals say, just put your foot down. You're the parents, and kids shouldn't be bribed to do something good for them. Alexandria Bonilla, KSL News Radio.
It is kind of odd to think about incentivizing somebody to not do something. But Alexandria makes a good point. Insurance companies can give you incentive to drive safely.
Yeah.
Companies may pay employees not to smoke. So there have been examples of that. It just doesn't seem like the kind of thing you do on a parent-child relationship.
Well, again, what's the difference between a parental bribe and an incentive, right, or just parenting, right? So kids are incentivized by different things. So I did have kids who maybe would have been incentivized by cash, right? And some would be like, whatever, I don't care, right? And so it wouldn't have worked the same. But we never really paid allowance in our family. We had a couple of reasons why. One is we didn't have a lot of extra money sitting around to parcel out. But the other one is I didn't want the kids to feel like they had an expectation to always be paid for everything, even though part of it was just being part of a family, right? So when it comes to social media, it's just interesting, right, the approach that some people are taking, trying to keep their kids off of it.
Yeah, and it's difficult for kids when you go to school or you're out in the playground and your other two friends are on their apps or looking at something or talking on the phone or sending texts, and you don't because your parents have incentivized you not to. So that does give you more reason to have that. I mean, looking back, I wish we had been more proactive in keeping our kids off cell phones early and social media at a younger age. However, it was still sort of developing, and at the time you sort of felt like, well, let the kid learn what's going on out there.
Yeah, there's a Wall Street Journal article that we've looked at this morning, and there's a mom in there who said she's made a deal with her kids to give them each $1,800 when they turn 18 if they can stay off social media, but they're only 11 and 12 right now. And the 11-year-old says that she's going to invest the money. So I have an 11-year-old, and I guarantee you she would not have a single conversation about investing money. That's probably my bad.
Yeah, well, and it's easy maybe when you're 11 or 12, but what about when you're 15 or 16 and you've still got a couple more years to wait till you're 18, because at that point,
right,
you want to have that ability, maybe.
Right, and that was one of the things that this mom in particular said, is she said, if I waited until I was 16, the kids would not be interested, right? But if you do it now, then you can just plan on it. So part of it is, can you stay off social media, right? Can you stay, quote unquote, out of the loop? And one of the things that's interesting is kids can find workarounds. So if you're not on Snapchat, for example, or you're not on Instagram, and you feel like you're maybe going to miss out on whatever social activity they're talking about, your peers are talking about, you can make sure that you have peers who keep you in the loop, right? And say, we're having a party on Friday, or we're getting together before the football game or after the football game or whatever.
We want to hear from you both during this segment and the next one about what you do, or maybe what you would do to keep your kids off of social media. Call us at 801-575-TALK or text us at 57500. We heard from one person this morning, maybe here in the studio, that said that they had incentivized their kids not to date.
Yeah.
Until they turn 16, or not to socialize. I think that makes sense. Another thing is the policing of all this. I mean, if you don't give your kid a phone in the first place, it's fairly easy, or give them access to the internet, but that's a little hard to do.
Look, I will just say kids are very clever, so they'll find a way around, right? And you can have this incentive, right? And I think really it's trying to buy out to get buy-in. I had an example one time where I outlawed gum in my family. And the reason I did is because I was tired of picking it out of the carpet and picking it out of kids' hair. So I outlawed it. So what did that make it? It made it contraband.
Right.
And then it was super appealing.
Right.
So my kids would go to their kids' houses and beg for pieces of gum. I had one child who took like a $5 bill and bought like a partially used pack of gum from a friend at school who's thinking like, yeah, sure, right? And I hadn't intended to turn it into this really highly desirable thing. So that's one option, right? That happens when you prohibit something. But yeah, it's an interesting conversation. And one of the things I think too is part of this broader conversation we've been having in Utah and across the country actually about banning cell phones during school hours. So nobody is having their phones during school. Not elementary school at all, bell to bell. And then on the high school level, there's a number of high schools where you can only have it out during like lunch hours. That's it.
Right, and that can be policed fairly easily by the administrators at the schools, who will simply take it away from the students. If you use access or display that you're using your phone, they can take it into the custody of the school for a minute and hold it until the class is over or something like that. But and schools are doing this on a school by school basis, but that makes a lot more sense because you have a little bit more policing power with that.
Yeah, and you can have you can have everybody's in the same boat, right? You're not the odd kid out without access to the phone. Everybody has no access to the phone.
Right.
So we do have one texter, and they say with their kids, they disabled the ability to be on the internet on their phones if we caught them doing a workaround. And they also looked at their phones on a regular basis. So I know there's parental controls, right, where you can follow where your kids are going. The phones could be taken away and completely shut off. Millions of kids have lived without phones. That's true.
Yeah.
But now we have everybody across the world is using phones. I talked this weekend to somebody about, I've been in refugee camps where there's no electricity, but people still have cell phones.
Yeah, they can
solar power
or something like that. Yep. Remember, we want to hear from you after the break. What would you do to keep your kids off of social media? And remember Holly's quote of the morning: when gum is outlawed, only outlaws will have
Chew gum.
We'll be right back.
Worried about market losses? If headlines are keeping you up at night, it's time to take control. Hi, I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, and I know you've worked hard to save. But in times like these, what if can turn into what now? If you're planning to retire or are in retirement, you need a strategy that helps protect your future. At Trajan Wealth, you can capture market gains, protect your account from losses, and guarantee income for life. Right now, you could receive a bonus of up to 30% or annual growth of up to 10% for retirement income. You heard me right. An upfront bonus of up to 30% or annual growth of up to 10%, all guaranteed to boost your lifetime income in retirement. Don't leave your future to chance. Plan with confidence. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Annuity guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company, DBA, in most states as Trajan Wealth Insurance Solutions.
Comcast Business High Five Hotline. What's the state of your excitement?
I signed my business up for the 5-year price lock guarantee, and I can't stop high-fiving people. High five!
Okay, deep breath.
High five.
You're in a good place. You signed your business up for 5 years of gig speed internet and advanced security, all on our ultra-reliable network.
Gig speeds and advanced security? I'm so stoked.
Yep, and you get it at a great rate that's locked in for 5 years.
Woo!
The high five is just your body's way of saying, I'm winning.
So this is natural.
High-fiving everyone you see in a state of business savings enthusiasm? Totally natural.
Sweet! Thank you! Thank you! High five, everybody! High five!
The Comcast Business 5-year price lock guarantee is back, but only for a limited time, so sign your business up today.
High five!
Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
Ends 9/21/25 for new customers with qualifying bundle. Current customers may be eligible depending on services and area. Guaranteed rate applies to monthly service charge, excluding taxes and fees. Other restrictions apply.
Most of us like to be out in the sun. That's why sunscreen and other safety measures are key to protecting your skin from aging and cancer. The FDA recommends using a sunscreen with a sun protection factor, or SPF, of 15 or higher. Also, look for broad spectrum on the label. That means both harmful ultraviolet A and B rays are blocked. UVA rays age the skin, UVB rays burn, and both cause cancer. But the perfect sunscreen doesn't count if you use it wrong. Don't need sunscreen on a cloudy day? Wrong. 80% of UV rays still get through the haze. Only use sunscreen at the beach? Nope. Anytime you're outside, UV rays attack the skin, so you need protection. And you have to reapply sunscreen every 2 hours. Remember, SPF plus broad spectrum equal healthy fun in the sun. Visit www.fda.gov/sunscreen for more information. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
We want to hear from you. Would you pay your kids to keep off of social media or their cell phones? Call us at 801-575-TALK or text us at 57500.
When it comes to vaping, the truth can get clouded. So let's make it clear. Vaping is not safe for kids, teens, or young adults. It's just not.
Because vaping can put microscopic particles into your lungs.
And dangerous things like metals and volatile organic compounds into your body.
And nicotine, the same highly addictive substance found in regular cigarettes.
Nicotine can harm a person's brain development through their mid-20s.
Affecting learning, memory, attention, and impulse control, and priming the brain for other addictions.
Vaping products also come in kid-friendly flavors that can make them appealing to youth.
And many kids also use other drugs, like marijuana, in vaping devices.
With appealing flavors, high nicotine levels, and lots of promotion on social media,
many kids think vaping is harmless, but it's not.
So talk to your kids about the risks of vaping, because when you talk, they hear you.
For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
I'm Andrew Saul, Commissioner of Social Security. I'm here to warn you about telephone scammers pretending to be government employees. Some of these scammers may say threatening things like you will be arrested if you don't make payments or provide personal information. Do not fall for these tricks. These calls are not from us. Real Social Security employees will never threaten you for information or money. If you receive a call like this, hang up. Never give the caller your personal information, like your Social Security number or bank account, or send money in any form, cash, gift cards, wire transfers, or prepaid debit cards. Report the call to our law enforcement arm the Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.gov. Share this information with your friends and family.
Inside Sources.
According to a recent article in the Wall Street Journal, Holly, some parents are offering their kids cash or even cars to stay off the phone. Some of our listeners have their own take on this.
Yeah, we've already gotten a number of texts. So if you want to join in the conversation, you can text us at 57500 or you can call us today, 801-575-TALK, TALK. Okay, so cell phones were just coming out when my kids were young, says one texter, so I didn't have to worry about this. But one family friend has one basic cell phone for their children to share that only has call capability. The kids can have their social media accounts on the family computer kept in the common area of the house so anyone can see what they're doing.
That makes a lot of sense.
At any time,
yeah. That was... sorry, I cut you off there at the end, but that makes some sense. You have that level of regulation. My situation was similar in that cell phones and whatnot were sort of just coming out when my kids were young.
Yeah. Another texter says, to keep my kids off the phone, I stay off the phone as well, and it's only allowed during certain time periods during the day, right? It's you can't really do as I say, not as I do, right? So when your kids are saying, if there's no cell phones at dinner, mom and dad better not have their cell phones at dinner, right?
Great example. I mean, and then that was an example that we had in our home that you just didn't take your phone to the table when
Right.
Or any social media.
One says, no, be a parent, teach your kids something, take the phone away. One says, I would do everything possible to keep my kids off of social media, and recommends that people read The Anxious Generation, and you won't want your kids on social media. So we've had conversations on the show before about the dangers of, for example, Snapchat and Instagram, and our own Attorney General, Derek Brown, is suing some of those companies because of the dangers that they put our young people in.
Yeah, and our legislature has done a good job, I think, over the last few years about regulating and giving the schools the ability to regulate kids bringing their social media, their cell phones and whatnot into the classroom. And I think these are good steps because we're learning. And when we talk about, it's actually National Suicide Month, we talk about injuries and problems and just the social stigma that a lot of kids have after watching a lot of, like you say, Snapchat and the various things that are on the internet nowadays. It's causing a lot of emotional problems for our young people that if we don't do something about it soon, it's just going to continue to get worse.
Yeah, there can be cyberbullying. We know that, right? And if you are not on your phones, you're not going to be exposed to the cyberbullying. I think that's actually a good thing. We actually had one child who did struggle with looking at inappropriate pictures, and so his phone was a flip phone that couldn't get any images.
And I mean, that's one of my pet peeves in terms of social media, and there's nothing you can do about it. But once that genie got out of the bottle, it just became such a horrific thing. And I deal with that all the time in my law practice to see what happens to not just young people, but all people when they start going down that rabbit hole of looking at inappropriate images, and it becomes almost like it's an addiction. And it is an addiction. It's treated like an addiction.
Right.
Because, I mean, the criminal justice system treats it more like a crime.
Right.
But, and there are significant penalties for that, including registration that could be for the rest of your life. But, I mean, the things that are available on social media just shouldn't be out there. But, you know, you can self-regulate, you can be a parent and regulate, but at some point it becomes up to the individual.
Yeah, you know, I remember when Facebook came out in 2008 is when I got on, and I think it was slightly before that it came out, but I was an early adopter. It was a great way to make connections, I thought, right, with people who had similar interests. And I remember I wrote an article way back in the day saying, look, you can actually find groups online on Facebook that knit sweaters out of dog hair. I wasn't even joking, right? So you can find these really small groups of people, and they can get together with shared interests. And now Facebook has become a thing for grandparents. You can share your grandkid photos and things, but it's so much darker than that. And kids, as you mentioned, they're exposed to just so much, and their brains aren't fully developed. I mean, we know that you're in your mid-20s before you really start to have all of your frontal lobe developed.
Yeah, and I had always figured I would never have any use for Facebook and I wouldn't do it. Then I ran for political office, and
You
my
need
campaign
some
manager
presence.
said, "You need to be on Facebook. We need to set up an account." I'm like, well, I don't even know how to access it myself.
Yeah.
But we did, and we set it up, and because I think there were some political campaigns, maybe Obama or maybe even sooner than that, where they really utilized social
Obama
media to
really
get
did, yeah.
the word out
Yeah.
and to get people on board. And I think it was a helpful thing then. Of course, we were talking about the downside to a lot
Right.
of that too. But I mean, I had to do it, and I still have some accounts that I use on social media. There's some that I haven't figured out yet.
Well, you can't do them all. There's too many. But one of the things too that's interesting, I think, is that we have people who study algorithms that these big companies are using. And there was an article today that I put in my Utah Policy newsletter about how Meta, which is the parent company for Facebook, how they knew their algorithms were harming kids, minors, and they didn't do anything about it. Right?
Yeah.
They knew.
And I mean, it would be interesting to have somebody do a study on that. But they can look at what you're accessing, what you're looking at,
yeah,
and they can sort of program what you're receiving in response to that. I mean, I was fixing my truck up, and I suddenly started getting ads for truck parts and
Right.
things like that. You know, like I'm like, holy cow! I've never had a pet, and we got a dog. Now I get dog
Right.
ads all the time.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So there's all kinds of stuff like that, right, that you can get. There's even eye studies, right, where you've got your camera on, right? It just kind of sits there in the background, even if you're not projecting. It can tell where your eyeballs are going. It can track
really?
that. Yeah. So there's stuff that can be used that's good, right? But there's also stuff that can really be difficult. And we know that with AI, for example, ChatGPT, that some of them, there are also workarounds there for self-harm. There's a lawsuit we've talked about on this show before about parents whose son was encouraged to kill himself. Speaking of Suicide Prevention Week, that begins this week, and September is Suicide Prevention Month. But ChatGPT encouraged him not to talk to his parents and encouraged him to go ahead and follow through with his suicidal plans.
Yeah, it's just craziness. But if you look online for some of these artificial intelligence apps, you can find how to do anything, even though that isn't the purpose of the app. It's
Right.
still there if you look hard enough.
So this article is from, this is in the Washington Post, the one I was talking about, Meta suppressing research. It's employees within the company saying that they had research on child safety and that the company was suppressing that. I had a professor of communication when I was doing my PhD up at the U, and she went into Meta as a researcher, but she had to sign non-disclosure agreements, couldn't talk about what she saw, couldn't talk about the data, but they literally hire researchers to find out all of this type of information. They know what's going on. They have people who do the research. And you're right, they offer up then what they know will either make you angry or what you might want to buy, et cetera, right?
And to me, there's another facet that's equally problematic, and that's just the distracting part of it. I remember going up to the law school and teaching, speaking, and everyone's got their phones and
Right.
texting, and I think that they did away with that. But if you're in a setting where people have their cell phones and it's not regulated, just even a public lecture or something like that,
Yeah.
and you can see people texting or whatever, it's just, first of all, I think it's incredibly inappropriate. I think it's disrespectful to a speaker.
It feels like that.
But it's also just a fact of life these days that people are going to do that. And I have to make sure my daughter's okay. I have to make sure that there's somebody
Right.
coming to my house to install the air conditioning unit. I need to make sure. But at any rate, step outside and do it.
Yeah, and that's an issue, right? You would take your conversation, your verbal conversation outside if you needed to have one or you had an emergency phone call, but we don't do that with our cell phones. But with kids, right, are you incentivizing them or are you bribing them? And is there a difference, right?
And I also think that from my own perspective, and it's easy to say because I'm looking back and it's water under the bridge. My kids are already adults. Parents just need to take the lead on this. Just no phones. You're not going to have a phone. You don't have a phone during dinner, or maybe you don't have a phone at all until you're 16. Now, again, that's easy for me to say
Right.
now because I didn't do it when I had teenage kids.
I heard a super creative response one time, and that was kids who wouldn't do their chores, and so mom changed the password to the Wi-Fi and said, when your chores are done, you'll get the Wi-Fi password
There
back.
you go. Good idea. Well, thanks for our callers and listeners who texted in and gave us some information. When we come back after the break, Utah legislators have filed an emergency motion with the Utah Supreme Court to put a hold on redistricting maps. While that's happening, Utah's congressional representatives are taking a, quote, wait-and-see approach. We'll talk about that when we come back.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top local story this hour: advocates for mental health are spreading the word about 988, the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, today, while the calendar reads 9/8.
It's been about 20 years since the Suicide Prevention Hotline launched, but only in recent years have we had a 3-digit number to call and text. And it's stayed busy. We still outpace the national average for suicides. State figures show just under 700 Utahns die by suicide every year here. But the research shows the hotline helps. Columbia University found most people feel less hopeless and depressed after reaching out to 988. We have more information, including other resources to prevent suicide, on our website, kslnewsradio.com.
That's KSL News Radio's Becky Bruce reporting. The Safe UT app is another good resource here locally. It's a free download on iPhone and Android. Salt Lake City police are investigating after pulling a body from the Jordan River. It was yesterday morning near 600 North and 1500 West. Detectives on scene said there was nothing particularly suspicious about the death in their preliminary investigation. No word on the identity or cause of death as of this morning. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. At least a dozen Republican governors have now mobilized National Guard units either to Washington, D.C. or within their own state borders.
As in other states, Louisiana National Guard troops are helping with immigration enforcement, but some New Orleans residents like Karen Jeffries are skeptical.
I'm afraid that this is a slippery slope.
But Louisiana State Police Colonel Robert Hodges says the Guard has helped out in the past with big events.
They bring extra expertise and experience, and we're glad to always partner with them.
Back in the French Quarter, the deployment of the National Guard in U.S. cities worries Karen Jeffries.
To me, it sounds like something that dictators do.
Jim Ryan, ABC News.
Well, right now, your money at this moment, the Dow's up 88 points to 45,489. Coming up, we've still got some traffic delays, and the weather's nice today. It may start to cool off, though, later this week. Traffic and weather together is next. KSL News Time, 9:32.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
I'm Christian Staples with Arctic Spas. Our Labor Day clearance sale is here through September 6th. Clearance savings on hot tubs, swim spas, all-weather pools, cold tubs, and saunas. Here's the scoop. One of the most coveted options for the Arctic Spa is called Smart Top, the easiest cover to open and close. So easy, you can do it with just 2 fingers, no joke. The Smart Top is normally $4,000, but you get it for free. You get the only spa built for Utah's harsh climate, a hybrid heating system that will cut your electric bill in half, automatic natural salt water, automatic pH control, remote control from your smartphone, the longest warranty, a free Smart Top Easy Open hardcover, and a clearance sale to save you money. For hot tubs, swim spas, all-weather pools, cold tubs, and saunas, check out Arctic Spas now through September 6th. Visit ArcticSpasUtah.com or one of our 3 Arctic Spa stores covering all of Utah in Salt Lake, American Fork, and St. George. Arctic Spa, the only spa built for Utah's harsh climate, and now on sale too.
Let's go! You're still glowing, flirting, grooving. You've still got it. But your immune system weakens as you age, making it harder to fight flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, and COVID-19. Vaccines are a key part of any health routine and help strengthen your immune response. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Schedule in minutes at VaxAssist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Vanity Fair calls BritBox a delicious streamer. Collider says everyone should be watching. Catch Britain's next best series with BritBox. Stream acclaimed new originals like Code of Silence.
You read lips, right?
And Linley, based on the best-selling mystery series.
G.I. Linley, take it from here.
And don't miss the new season of Karen Piri, coming this October.
You don't look like police.
I'll take that as a compliment.
See it differently when you stream the best of British TV with BritBox. Watch with a free trial today.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account. So no more emergency traffic, Heather.
No more emergency traffic, but we still have a little bit of slowing on the collector ramp of northbound I-15 as you move from Sandy into Midvale, and then a little bit on I-15 going over the I-215 South Interchange. That's all at the south end of the Salt Lake Valley. And we also have a few crashes still in play, but they're not causing slowdowns. One of them is on Bangerter Highway northbound at 9800 South in South Jordan. That's been moved behind all the construction barrels. There's also one if you're on Redwood Road heading north in Taylorsville. If you want to take the ramp that'll take you onto I-215 heading east, the right lane and shoulder of that on-ramp is blocked from Redwood Road. And then for those of you in West Haven, there's a crash on 1900 West. That is northbound right before you get to Midland Drive, blocking the right lane. One night only, iStream, September 10th at the Sports Complex. See Olympic legend Nancy Kerrigan, Jason Brown, Ashley Kane, and Gracie Gold. Tickets selling fast at iStreamstour.com. Don't miss it. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather the next 3 days going to be the warmest of the next week with highs in the upper 80s, looking for a high of 88 degrees today and mostly sunny. Right now it is 75 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Following up on our conversation involving the legislature and the court's sort of difference in how to handle the redistricting issue here in Utah, and following up on the ballot initiative that was passed in 2018 to create a citizen-led ballot initiative, and the legislature's tweaking of that in 2021, a judge has given the legislature until September 25th, the Utah legislature, to submit a new map that adheres to the anti-gerrymandering rules under Prop 4. We're talking about now our own legislative representatives who, I was wondering, well, what does this have to do with our national representatives? Has everything in the world to do with them. You corrected me and say, because it's their seats and it's how their specific areas are going to be defined.
Yeah, that's right. And so right now we have 4 congressional representatives. It's all done by population across the nation, right? So we currently have 4. They're all Republicans, and it's Congressman Blake Moore, Congressman Burgess Owens, Congressman Mike Kennedy, and Congresswoman Celeste Malloy. And their districts right now all incorporate some urban, some rural, but Celeste Malloy's goes from St. George all the way up to Bountiful. Right? It's I mean, and you've got to go where the population center is, and one of the things that's interesting. A couple of things, right? So simultaneous to redrawing these maps that the Utah legislature says they will do and have by September 25th, they're also trying to get the Utah Supreme Court to issue a stay, right, to put this on pause. And one of the things that I understand, but you can clarify, that they have to show harm. And so they're claiming to the Utah Supreme Court that this decision is harming them as a legislature. Do you want to break that down a little bit?
Yeah, so anytime you file an emergency request, or you have to show that you're, I guess, that you have a dog in the fight, that you're harmed, and it has to be real. What is the harm that would be caused? And we talk about the notion of irreparable harm. In other words, if it's not done, then you've created a situation that can't be fixed. And so what we're looking at, if you think about it, the end game is what the ballot looks like in November of 2026.
Right.
And so backing up a little bit, the lieutenant governor is saying, well, I need to know that by November 10th or whatever of 2025.
Right.
The legislature is saying, well, you put us under the gun here a little bit. And what if we abide by the judge's ruling, but then the Supreme Court later, months from now, says, "Oh, by the way, what she did was wrong."
Mm-hmm.
Then a harm has occurred. for which there's no remedy because it's too late. So they're saying it's irreparable harm. We need to make a decision now, and they're asking the Supreme Court to weigh in. Presumably before September 25th. I don't know that our Supreme Court's going to do that. I mean, that's 17 days away.
So how quickly would they have to rule then? They'd have to rule before the 25th, or would they have to rule before November 10th?
So both. I mean, the rule would be before November 10th. And actually all they're asking for is that they just put a stay on it. Just a stay until it can be sorted out. Of course, the plaintiffs would say, well, that creates harm to us because you go through a third election cycle since this was passed, and the harm's already been done twice. All we do is make it worse. So the timing of it is difficult, although it could be worse. I mean, we're not dealing with 2026. At least the judge gave them some period of time to get it done. And frankly, I find both parties' complaints about, hey, we don't have enough time, not persuasive because they've had time. I mean, it's not like they're reinventing the wheel. I mean, they've had proposed maps. The Redistricting Commission proposed maps. The legislature, I'm sure, went back and forth on maps that they could do. So I don't find it's very sympathetic to say, oh, we're not going to be able to get this done. They have all the time in the world.
Well, one of the things that's interesting with the congressional representatives is only 2 have weighed in, and they basically said it's too early for me to weigh in, and the other 2 didn't respond. But I would suspect that all 4 of them will run for office, whether they, as incumbents, whether they live in the district that they represent or not, because you don't have to live in the district that you represent in Utah.
It can be.
On the federal level. On the state level, you must live in the district you represent.
Right. Yes, you're right. On the federal level, you're a Congress representative from the state of Utah, not necessarily from
Even though you want to
County.
represent, that's right. Even though you want to represent District 3, for example, you can technically live in District 2. You can't even vote for yourself, but that's happened several times recently.
So if you look at the current map as it goes through the state of Utah, it does have some, if you look at it from a distance, it makes some sense. You look at the one district up north, it goes down to the west side, 2nd district, 3rd, and I'm just saying in numerical, not necessarily what represents the 3rd, and then back up. But if you look at Salt Lake County in particular, it's almost like the 4 corners of the country. There's one part where Salt Lake County is literally, within blocks of all 4 congressional districts. And I think that's where the rubber meets the road with people who are saying, well, that's really gerrymandering at its worst when you're dividing a neighborhood 4 ways just to get the split so that you don't have too many Democrats in a particular area.
Right. So there's a couple of issues. First of all, it's not the worst gerrymandering. You can look at maps from other states and you say, oh my goodness gracious, how on earth did you get that shape? But Prop 4 said several things, right? One is let us have an independent redistricting commission, but the legislature doesn't have to accept the maps, which they didn't do. But it also said you have to consider, if you don't accept the maps, you have to consider some of the following criteria. 1 is you want to keep communities of interest and neighborhoods together. 2, you can't consider the relative partisan strength of any particular area. So that's the one where I think it's a little bit harder. Communities of interest, I can understand that, but you also have to understand that there is no way to subdivide Salt Lake County in a way that gets you 1 congressional district. There's too many people in Salt Lake County. There's not enough in Salt Lake City, right, to be able to get the right numbers to say we're going to have a Democratic seat, congressional seat, just in Salt Lake City. There's not enough people who live there.
Right, and Salt Lake County, there's too many.
In Salt Lake County, there's too many.
You're really looking at 2
You have to divide.
2 congressional, yes. And that makes perfect. And I think a lot of people are saying, well, if Utah is, 25, 30% Democrat, shouldn't we have 25 or 30% of our representatives Democrat? And others are saying, Might is right. If the state is largely Republican, why shouldn't if you look
there's the key.
I know. And so both sides are looking at this from their own lens. We've seen other states, including Texas recently, California potentially,
Missouri,
and others lining up saying, well, we're going to redraw our maps.
Yep.
And it's not something that's even been done in the past. We do it concurrent with the census.
Yep.
So basically every
Once
10
a decade.
years.
Yep.
And then you look at, your state's grown and you should get another congressional representative. So let's divide up and how we're going to make Utah into 5 seats maybe. You know what I mean?
We can't do that without a federal thing, without a federal census. We can't do that. Right. Because even though our state has grown, you could then subdivide and say, based on our state, we'll redivide the 4, but we can't give ourselves a 5th seat.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, the Utah Supreme Court's got to weigh in, the legislature's got to weigh in, and we'll see what happens.
Well, jury selection is starting today in the trial of the man accused of trying to assassinate then-candidate Trump near a Florida golf course. That's coming up next, and we're streaming live at KSLNewsRadio.com, and we're also on the app for KSL News Radio, sponsored by At Your Service Pros.
September means it's time for Any Hour Services free furnace sale. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and as summer comes to a close and falls right around the corner, the weather gets, perfect. And when the weather's perfect, people need a little extra incentive to replace their heating and cooling system. That's where Any Hour Services free furnace sale comes in. For the month of September, when you have Any Hour Services install a new air conditioner, we'll give you a new furnace for just the cost to install it. About $400. The furnace is free, you just pay the labor. And there's no catch. There's no raising the price on the air conditioner first. There's no making you buy the most expensive air conditioner to qualify. There's none of that. There's just a desire to keep our technicians working while the weather's mild and a genuine appreciation of you for helping us keep them busy. So if you've been thinking about replacing your old furnace and air conditioner and want to know exactly how much you can save during our free furnace sale, call Any Hour Services today and schedule a free estimate. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Do you have 3 ex-wives and your current trophy wife wants a life insurance policy 3 times the size of the policies you had to purchase for your previous mistakes? If so, you need to call Big Lou at Term Provider, 800-859-3220. Big Lou is intimately familiar with your problems, and if you're 50 to 60 years old and in reasonably good health, a $1 million policy should only cost about $100 to $200 per month. Big Lou may have a solution for your previous policies as well. You may even save enough money to lighten the load on your new $1 million policy. Remember, call Big Lou. He's like you, except he's only on number 2. Call Term Provider at 800-859-3220. That's 800-859-3220 for $1 million in term life insurance that you can live with. Call Big Lou at 800-859-3220. 800-859-3220.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm, and Chuck McDowell definitely not an attorney. This is Chuck. If someone talked you into buying something really silly and you want to get out of that silly little thing, my advice, get the facts. Call me and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit absolutely free. Inside, you'll learn how timeshare works and all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your free exit info kit. 800-486-9600. That's 800-486-9600.
This is the story of the one. As a custodial supervisor at a high school, he knows that during cold and flu season, germs spread fast. It's why he partners with Grainger to stay fully stocked on the products and supplies he needs, from tissues to disinfectants to floor scrubbers. All so that he can help students, staff, and teachers stay healthy and focused. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Advanced Window Products. Factory direct. Affordable windows. Call today. They're on their way. Financing available. Save now, pay later. AdvancedWindows.com.
Matthew.
Huh? Oh, sorry.
It's okay. I just need you to listen to me.
I know that a lot of times, Mom, it might not seem like I'm listening to you, but I am. I hear you. And what you say really does matter to me.
I mean, let's be honest. No kid likes rules, but I get why we have them. I hear you, and I know it's because you care.
All the talks we've had over the years, including what you've told me about not using alcohol and other drugs, they stick with me. And believe it or not, they really do make a difference, especially at times that matter most.
Hey, want a drink?
No thanks, I'm good. So thank you, Dad, for talking and preparing me for what's ahead.
Thanks, Mom, for never giving up and always being my biggest fan.
Thank you for letting me know what you expect, so I can try to meet your expectations.
Thank you for talking.
For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security. Opening a My Social Security account gives you secure access to your personal record and interactive tools tailored for you. You can see if you are eligible to receive benefits, view spousal benefit estimates, and compare retirement benefit estimates at different ages or dates when you want to start receiving benefits. Already receiving benefits? Use your account to change your address, set up or change direct deposit, get a proof of income letter, and more. In most states, you can also request a replacement Social Security card. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
And expanded Inside Sources.
Jury selection begins today for the trial of a man accused of trying to assassinate President Trump. This is the one in Florida. Trump was playing golf in Florida last year when Secret Service agents spotted what they thought was what turned out to be the barrel of an assault-style rifle in the bushes. Now the man who has pled not guilty to 5 felony counts is scheduled to go to trial. Now, some people have asked this morning, is this the case of the man who shot President Trump in the ear? That happened in Pennsylvania, and that individual was killed by agents.
So there's no trial.
So there's no trial for that one. This is a man who was just simply, well, not simply, but he was hiding in the bushes, had a weapon there. A 59-year-old Ryan Routh of Hawaii, former Trump supporter, and he's told the judge, Holly, that he's going to represent himself in this trial.
And, you know, this is Judge Eileen Cannon, and she had the maybe understatement of the month, and she said, you know, that's a bad idea.
That's a really bad idea. ABC News chief investigative correspondent Aaron Katersky is following the case.
He has called Trump a bunch of names, all of them unflattering. He's questioned the legitimacy of having Judge Eileen Cannon preside over the trial because he said she's a Trump appointee. How is that fair? She's refused to recuse herself. All the while, lost in all of that rhetoric is the very serious nature of what he's accused of.
So a couple things. It's a jury trial, so the judge can have whatever bias he or she might have, but ultimately the concept of guilt or innocence is going to be decided by a jury. And second, as Aaron just said, this is a very serious case. I mean, I looked up the United States Code on assassination, as you might expect. It's incredibly serious, and it includes candidates for political office. And at that time, Trump was a candidate. Now, he obviously didn't assassinate Trump, but he attempted to. And under American jurisprudence, if you have a law, let's say in Utah, burglary is a second-degree felony, attempted burglary would be one step lower, a slightly less serious crime, but it's still a crime. And all you have to prove is that the individual took a substantial step toward the commission of the crime. Hiding in the bushes, carrying a weapon is probably a substantial step.
So I'm looking at a story online that says if he's convicted on attempted assassination, it's a maximum penalty of life in prison. So why would this not be the death penalty? Because he didn't actually kill him?
Yes. So in America so far, and I don't know that there's an exception to this, there is no federal crime, and there's no crime in the state of Utah for which the death penalty applies that didn't involve a death.
Okay.
Now, some states are saying repeat child molesters should suffer the death penalty. We'll see, but that hasn't been consistent with our Supreme Court's concept of cruel and unusual punishment. What they're saying is, unless you cause a death, you're not likely to ever receive the death penalty. So this wouldn't be a death penalty case.
Okay. So one of the things that we're seeing with the case is one of the reasons he's defending himself is because he said that his relationship with his public defenders was just irreconcilably broken.
Right. And he's made some really interesting pretrial requests, and this is more from ABC News chief investigative correspondent Aaron Katersky.
He's made a series of rather bizarre requests in pretrial motions. He asked the judge for female strippers. He asked for a putting green to be put in his jail cell. And he asked for a round of golf with President Trump. And if Trump wins, Ryan Routh says he can execute me.
Gosh.
So, you wonder, I mean, a lot of people would say he sounds like he's mentally ill. He sounds like he's crazy. My guess is he's crazy like a fox. And he's saying and doing what he needs to do because he knows that the facts are not lining up in favor of him very much and representing himself because his defense may be, I'm trying to make the world a better place, or who knows what his defense is going to be.
Yeah, who knows? One of the things he also said that if President Trump won the golf game, then Trump could execute him. That would be weird.
Right.
But he also said, if I win, I get his job. And I think Vice President Vance might have something to say about that.
But, I mean, it's sad that we're dealing with this, but jury selection is beginning. That's going to start today. I would assume that a trial of this nature, it doesn't sound particularly complicated, but a week, maybe 2 weeks for trial would make sense. And if it's a federal case, that means that there would be 12 jurors. It's in the Southern District of Florida. So federal crimes in America, felonies carry 12 jurors. So that's a bigger burden. In Utah State, and every state has its own, our felony juries consist of 8 jurors, unless it's a death penalty case, and then you get 12.
And is that why an even number? Because if it splits, then it's a hung jury, right?
Or, no. So, and in a criminal context, it has to be unanimous.
Oh, okay.
So there's no split.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter how many there are.
Oh, okay.
So in a criminal context in Utah and federally, the jury has to be unanimous. That means 12-0. And so if it's 11-1, that's what we call a hung jury. You know what I mean? You do it again.
Yeah.
Or if it's 1-11, it doesn't matter.
Oh, interesting.
Unanimous means unanimous. So you just need one juror to side with you. And people think that's impossible, but I've done over 200 jury trials, and I would say I've probably had 2 or 3 hung juries. I mean, they just don't happen. Jurors get together, they decide what they want to do, and they make decisions.
Interesting. So how long is the process typically to pick a jury, especially like in a federal case like this?
So Florida is a big jurisdiction. The Southern District of Florida is big. It probably won't be too difficult to find 12 people, and they'll probably have a couple of alternates, so maybe 14 who have not formed an opinion about the case, who don't know enough about the case to decide whether or not he's guilty or innocent at the start. I would assume, and I could be wrong, that jury selection could go the better part of 2 days. Today's Monday, so maybe Wednesday we'll start with opening statements, and the government, which always has the burden of proof, and so they always go first, will start putting on its witnesses. I don't know whether this defendant's going to call witnesses of his own or whether he's going to testify, but the jury selection, that's a good question, would probably in a case like this take at least a couple of days. We usually, in Utah, for cases that have got no notoriety, you can select a jury in a morning.
Oh.
And even on a felony case, it takes 3 or 4 hours and you've got a jury, and then you come back in the afternoon.
I've always had the idea that it's much more complicated than that, right? And I have never been called for jury duty. Is that so weird? I'm on the voter rolls. I'm an active voter. Never been called. Never gotten a single letter. I'll probably jinx myself now, right? But yeah, my husband has been called up several times, and they were always resolved right before he was supposed to show up at court. But my brother was called recently for what he said was a murder case, and he was dismissed. Oh, no, it wasn't recently, but he said he was called, and he walked in saying, I already know he's guilty.
That's a bad start. Yeah,
he said that he was dismissed right away.
Yeah, and you start with a venire, it's called, which is just this huge panel, and you start with 40 or 50, or in this case, maybe 100 people. And from that, you whittle it down to the 12 that are ultimately going to hear the case.
I see an article here that says he has potential jurors out of a pool of 180 people. That sounds like a really big pool.
That's a big group. Yeah, right.
So you asked if he plans to bring witnesses, and this is a Politico.com article. He says he does plan to bring his son, 2 former coworkers, and his mentee to talk about his character and nonviolence, but the judge rejected his request to bring in other witnesses, including experts and authors on Palestine, and a woman with whom he had a sexual relationship to talk about how peaceful he was.
So the judge is right, and even his son and his coworker, Holly, the issue is guilt or innocence, and not character. He could be a nice guy and still commit a crime.
Right.
A character comes into play at what we call sentencing. In other words, if he's found guilty, then you can say, oh, but he was a great guy and he did, he helped people across the road.
He had a psychotic
break.
break.
This or that. But that doesn't necessarily play in terms of the guilt portion. So in American jurisprudence, there's guilt and then there's punishment. And character goes to punishment, not necessarily to guilt. So I don't know that the judge is going to allow too much of that to occur.
He also said he wants to subpoena President Trump, and the judge already said no.
Yeah, because President Trump probably doesn't have any information. I mean,
he probably doesn't know him, right?
Right, and has no relevant information. Didn't know what was going on. I mean, he happened to be golfing at the time, and so what's that going to do? So I would assume that the judge is going to stand by that ruling, and he probably won't be allowed to call President Trump. I don't see any reason why he could. We'll be following that trial probably for the next couple of weeks and see how that shakes out. And we'll let you know when we get closer to jury verdict and if there's something interesting going on with the trial. A major immigration raid occurred in Georgia targeting workers from South Korea who were in the U.S. helping build an EV battery plant to help get Hyundai up and running. We'll be right back.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour, a man's body was recovered after he jumped off a houseboat in Lake Powell but didn't resurface. The Kane County Sheriff's Office says it happened Saturday night, and the man was in his 30s. Divers found the body early Sunday morning in about 17 feet of water. Some parents are paying their kids to stay off their cell phones. KSL News Radio's Alexandria Bonilla reports.
Some parents say it's no different than paying them to do chores. Others say it's like companies that pay employees not to smoke or insurance companies that offer lower premiums for safe driving. The Wall Street Journal reports more parents are turning to money and other monetary gifts to keep kids off their phones since they can often work around parental controls. Other health professionals say just put your foot down. You're the parents, and kids shouldn't be bribed to do something good for them. Alexandria Bonilla, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The White House asked the Supreme Court this morning to allow it to freeze billions of dollars in foreign aid funding. The Trump administration wants the High Court to partially halt a lower court order that required it to spend more than $4 billion in aid by the end of September. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 43 points today to 45,444. Coming up, upper 80s until a cold front moves in. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time 10:01.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. We're dedicated to serving people 50 and up like me. Our needs are different. Big Wireless wants us in an unlimited plan, but if you're not using all that data, you're probably getting used. At Consumer Cellular, we're focused on affordable, reliable plans, including data that suits your needs, not ours. Our plans start at just $20, and you'll get the best customer service in the business.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
Ready to order?
Yes. We're earning unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with a Capital One Saver card, so let's just get one of everything.
Everything?
Fire everything! The Capital One Saver card is at table 27 and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, Chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu!
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
The Utah RV Super Show, the premier RV event of the year, is back at the Mountain America Expo Center Thursday, September 11th through Sunday, September 14th. Come see new 2026 models and special closeout pricing on all 2025 models. The Utah RV Super Show is offering family passes Thursday, September 11th for $10 per family. Unplug from distractions and plug into family at the Utah RV Super Show. Discount passes at UtahRVSupershow.com.
Turn everyday spending into an extraordinary escape. Shop with any Mountain America credit or debit card for a chance to win a $5,000 vacation voucher. Simply tap, insert, swipe, or click to be entered to win now until October 31st. Use any card, win any trip from Mountain America Credit Union. Visit macu.com/anycard for official rules or to apply. Loans on approved credit. Membership required based on eligibility. Insured by NCUA. Limited time offer. Offer can change or be withdrawn at any time.
Time for a check of traffic and weather together on KSL News Radio, brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account. Heather Kelly, what are you seeing?
We are seeing pretty good speeds on all the freeways across the Wasatch Front. No issues on I-15 northbound or southbound heading into downtown Salt Lake. Same story coming out of Tooele County on SR36, I-80, and the 201 freeway. For those of you in Utah County coming out of Saratoga Springs, it's still a bit of a struggle on Pioneer Crossing eastbound as you make your way from 1100 West all the way over to I-15, where you still have those barrels that are in place at the median, slowing everybody down. Put your energy into the fight song, not fighting for parking. You win when you take UTA to the game. Plan your trip at rideuta.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, 88 degrees today for a high, but then tomorrow it gets breezy, and the wind lasts through Thursday. Right now, it is 78 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
We're learning today that hundreds of workers at a Hyundai plant. I was thinking Hyundai of workers at a 100 plant. And hundreds of workers at a Hyundai plant in Georgia were detained after an immigration raid. The South Korean-based automaker called on its government to work out a deal with the Trump administration. About 500 people arrested, Holly, and most of them were South Korean nationals. This is a plant that was setting up to build batteries for electric vehicles.
Right. And one of the things that's got to be a little bit frustrating is President Trump said bring manufacturing back, and so Hyundai is building a plant. It's not operational, wasn't set to be operational until next year. So they're setting up this plant. They have all these workers, and then hundreds of them were rounded up, and now they're going back to South Korea. So I don't know how that's going to work out.
ABC senior White House correspondent Selena Wang reports.
South Korea is a U.S. ally. The country recently pledged to invest billions of dollars in the U.S., and the government is expressing concern here. The Ford ministry said the following, quote, the economic activities of our companies investing in the U.S. and the rights and interests of our nationals must not be unfairly violated. Hyundai says these were not employees for the company directly, but a network of subcontractors that the plant used.
500 of them.
Yeah,
South Korean nationals.
Yeah, that's right. And, President Trump said people need to respect U.S. immigration law while he welcomes foreign workers who come here legally to train American workers, which some are arguing that is exactly what was happening. And if you see some of the images, they were taking people out. I mean, these are people from South Korea working on batteries. They were taking them out with chains around their waist, their hands and feet shackled. I mean, it really is something where originally the immigration deportation conversation was about the bad dudes that were selling drugs, right? Not constructing electric vehicle batteries.
Trump did sort of follow up saying, well, maybe we need some of these workers until the Americans can get their skills up to speed.
If you don't have people in this country right now that know about batteries, maybe we should help them along and let some people come in and train our people to do, complex things, whether it's battery manufacturing or computer manufacturing.
Makes you wonder if ICE had coordinated with the administration before they decided to go in and round up 500 South Korean nationals who were doing exactly what I think Trump's tariff plan was designed to do, and that is bring construction, bring marketing, bring manufacturing
back to the U.S.
in the United States.
Yeah, it's one of the issues that you have this ongoing conversation, and we'll talk in our next segment about what's happening in Chicago, but it really is this idea of what is happening with ICE. Do ICE agents talk with, for example, people above them? President Trump apparently didn't know. Sounds like he didn't know before this happened, right? And South Korea now is concerned about the diplomatic ties that are being strained. if not broken, with this mass roundup of their workers.
500. We're talking about 500 people, most of them South Korean nationals, who were arrested at a Hyundai plant. It was a collaboration between Hyundai and I think LG. They were to build batteries.
Right.
Another U.S. company to try to build batteries for their cars. I mean, we've got to start doing more of that at home here. And they're arrested. I mean, that's got to put the complete brakes on this. I mean, 500 workers out of the loop. That's going to put a stop to this.
Look, the New York Times has an article that starts this way. The United States has for years pressured South Korea to invest billions of dollars in American industry, a push that has only increased over the past few months. That made it all the more shocking for South Koreans when they learned that U.S. immigration officials raided the construction site of a major Hyundai LG plant in Georgia.
And now we're being told that South Korea has chartered a plane to take them all back home.
Yeah.
500 individuals.
Yeah.
You would hope that there'd be something worked out here. And maybe vet, there are probably 300 or 400 of them that could be valuable if they wanted to stay here and work.
I think that the working out part is going to come after these people go home to South Korea. Again, I think if you think that you're here doing a good thing, you're going to help train American workers who don't know how to do this yet. Even President Trump said they can help train American workers who need these skills, right, and then go home. Well, now you're sending them home before American workers have been trained.
And ICE has the uncomfortable position, Holly, of being in a place where they've got to arrest, for quota purposes, 300 individuals a day. So 500.
I thought it was 3,000. Wasn't
right.
it? Isn't it a lot? It's
Yes.
a lot.
Yes, it's to whatever. Yeah, whatever gets you to 1 million in a year. Yes, 300. Yeah, I don't know, whatever it is. It's a lot, but 500 has to be a big chunk of that.
Yeah, it's part of the conversation that's an ongoing conversation about what is the balance here, right? And we've talked about the balance between trying to bring manufacturing back to the United States. And for some companies, we know that manufacturing won't be back here until well after the Trump administration is over.
Right. It's 3,000 a day. You're right. But you know, the whole idea of this company coming in, Hyundai, South Korean, they're our friends. You know what I mean? This is a country we want to work with, and Hyundai's a big company that sells a ton of product in the United States and is getting into the electric vehicle business and needs more batteries. So let's build them here. Let's have manufacturing here. Let's help these people. In the meantime, 500 are being shipped up on a plane and sent back to South Korea.
Yeah, have you ever been to South Korea?
I have, actually.
So have I. And I found the people there to be very respectful, very kind. They were definitely friends of the United States. One of the people who was caught up in that actually talked to the BBC, which is the British Broadcasting Corporation, right? And he said he first became aware that something was happening when the company bosses started calling. There was a whole bunch of phone calls saying shut down operations, and it was the largest of its kind, largest immigration raid since President Trump returned to the White House. They were trying to contact family members. All of their cell phones were in the office, but the office was locked, so they couldn't even talk to their families.
Yeah, you know, my son's in the Air Force, and he was deployed to South Korea for some time, and I went and visited him.
Mm-hmm.
And what I recall about that country is that they were very supportive of the U.S. influence there, that they didn't mind the Air Force base on Osong or wherever it was.
Yeah, that's right.
And
yeah.
my son's a doc there, and he was stationed at the orthopedic clinic, and they treated us incredibly well. And anywhere you went in the community there in South Korea was great. I mean, that's a country that loves its association with the United States, wants to continue that, and I hope we didn't set it back by this 500 people being now deported.
So ICE is saying these people were not legally authorized to be in the United States, but the BBC in their article, they verified that there, at least people that they talked to, were legally allowed to be in the United States, right? That they had the legal right to be here on a work visa.
That's what I thought, that they were here on work visas, so they had to have at least the temporary status in the United States.
So ICE is saying that they were here illegally, all 475, and yet South Korea and the workers themselves, at least some of them, are saying, no, we're here. Some of them, it looks like maybe overstayed a work visa, but again, it's it was the largest immigration raid of a workplace so far since President Trump took office.
Yeah, 500
earlier this year.
And I don't know. I mean, we've hit this pretty hard, but you just hope that it doesn't break down any sort of diplomatic relationships between the two countries, and that we recognize the importance of the manufacturing facility that's being set up in Georgia to help the countries get along better in the future.
Well, and not only that, it will impact battery production, right? Which will then trickle down, no question, I think, trickle down to the costs of electric vehicle batteries and more of those, right?
Well, you know, when we started this, we talked about the fact that they're chartering a plane to take them back to South Korea. And I would just hope that cooler heads could prevail and we could do something in the meantime and maybe just sit down with, 475 people. It's not going to take a long time, and go through their status in this country. And if they're here on a visa, something's legit, let's let them do that. If they've got skills, like Trump said himself, that are unique to them, those are reasons why we do allow work visas.
But would you want to stay here?
Oh, I'm sure that they're going to be looking over their shoulders every
I'm
time.
not sure I would want to stay, even if I were here
yeah.
legally. All right, so talking about immigration and deportations, on social media over the weekend, President Trump shared a post saying, "I love the smell of deportations in the morning." And then he followed it up with this: Chicago is about to find out why it's called the Department of War. That's coming up next, streaming live at KSLNewsRadio.com and on the app for KSL News Radio, sponsored by At Your Service Pros.
Everybody knows that exterior remodeling salespeople are all about the high-pressure sell. Am I right? Windows, siding, gutters, those suckers are going to twist your arm and get you to buy, or they won't leave your house at night. Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors, and I want you to know we don't have high-pressure cells. In fact, we don't even have salespeople. Nope, we have estimators. That's a huge difference. Estimators are trained to look at the entire scope of the project, to see and know if there are any problems, like rotten wood, wood-borne insects, or construction issues specific to your house or your neighbors. Salespeople are more concerned about playing those silly price games. Buy one, get one free, sign today and get 40% off, as if they didn't just jack the price up to give you a fake discount. RGS Exteriors estimators are going to give you a great quote. No games, no tricks, no nonsense. Call RGS Exteriors to quote your exterior project. Our number is 801-280-3110 or visit us at rgsutah.com. That's rgsutah.com.
This Friday from 10 to 1, the movie show comes to Sound Sleep. But first, take time to learn about a better night's rest. Sound Sleep delivers oral appliance therapy that treats sleep apnea without the use of CPAP machines. They're professionally fit, warranted, and covered by most major medical insurance. End the days of a poor night's sleep. With offices from Clearfield to St. George, Sound Sleep will help. Call Sound Sleep at 801-716-8672 today.
What are you doing every day to support your liver? If you enjoy sweets, fast food, alcohol, or take any medications, that's a vital question to ask. Hi, I'm Sherry Torkas, pharmacist and health author. For over 30 years, I've helped people make informed decisions about their health, especially concerning prevention and long-term wellness. Supporting your liver isn't just a wellness trend, it's a daily essential. That's why I recommend Active Liver by New Nordic. It's made with plant-based ingredients like milk thistle, turmeric, and globe artichoke, herbs clinically studied for their protective and restorative effects on the liver. Active Liver blends traditional herbal wisdom with modern scientific research. Not all supplements are created equal. I trust Active Liver because it's backed by science, meets strict quality standards, and delivers true daily liver support.
Protect your liver and give it the support that it deserves by making Active Liver from New Nordic part of your daily wellness routine. Find Active Liver in stores at your local CVS, Meijer Grocery, or online at Amazon or newnordicusa.com.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Hi, it's Tori DeVito. In every family, small conversations can make a big impact. I grew up on tour with my parents. Kind of different, but we bonded over music just like other families do over sports, camping, or other interests. And we talked. Little everyday conversations from silly to serious that built a foundation over time. Honest conversations, like when my dad shared his experiences as an alcoholic.
Your honesty about that part of your life gave me a sense of integrity that I wanted to uphold in my own life. And I was so grateful that you and Mom had become these sober, stable people who were always there for me.
I wanted you to know, from someone who's been in recovery more than 30 years now, that hard work is what creates success.
not alcohol or other drugs, whether it's music or anything else. I said it a lot, and I'm glad you took it to heart.
Talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel you attract people who tend to be compulsive or abusive?
Do you have money problems because of someone else's drinking?
Are you afraid or embarrassed to bring your friends home?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
More than half of all adults have a family history of alcoholism.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too. Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
My name is Dale Pazinski. I volunteer with United Way to help the homeless in my community learn computer skills and build a basic resume. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
It's been a month since the administration sent National Guard troops into the District of Columbia, and it's been several months since they did the same with Los Angeles, with mixed results. Now, Chicago is bracing for additional immigration support. Local law officials there are pushing back against Trump, who's saying he's going to send federal troops into the city.
It's, again, I mentioned as we were headed into the break, he had this social media thing over the weekend where he said, I love the smell of deportations in the morning, which is, of course, a reference to Apocalypse Now. And I love the smell of napalm in the morning, which is not a good thing.
No, here's ABC's Matt Rivers on that.
Tall fencing up outside the building telling you that they are expecting more protests over the days to come. This after the president spent the weekend really zeroing in on Chicago, talking about both the city's crime problems as well as illegal immigration. The president even posting a manipulated image on social media, writing, I love the smell of deportations in the morning, a play, of course, off the movie Apocalypse Now.
And here's the actual line from Apocalypse Now.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
It wasn't something that was in that movie for a good reason. I mean, it was a very derogatory statement, and I love the smell of immigration in the morning. As we look back, I want to say with District of Columbia and Los Angeles, they've had mixed reviews with both. And with respect to Los Angeles, a court so far has said that deployment was illegal by Trump.
Right.
And I know that there's different reasons for each one. With the respect to the District of Columbia, it is a federal jurisdiction. It's
right.
So it's under federal control.
Right.
So arguably Trump is if there was a governor,
the
and
de
there's
facto
not,
leader, right? Yeah.
So it's a little easier to send troops into Washington, D.C. when you are the leader of Washington, D.C. Not so much so when you're going into cities like Los Angeles, Chicago, and now he's threatening to go into New Orleans and Baltimore. In fact, he's saying, I may do New Orleans instead of Chicago, is the latest that we're hearing.
Well, in New Orleans, even though Louisiana is a red state, New Orleans tends to be blue, right? And that's one of the issues, too, that people are saying is like, why are you going into cities where there's a crime rate worse in other places? But, when he posted that, the governor of Illinois responded and saying, this is not normal. The president of the United States is threatening to go to war with an American city. I agree with him. I don't think that's normal.
Right. And it's something, I think we're going to look back on Los Angeles. I think we're going to look back on Washington, D.C. and say, okay, what is the proof? What actually happened? Was there a benefit to that? Mm-hmm. And in D.C., it's mixed. In Los Angeles, of course, I don't know that it had the effect that Trump was planning. In Washington, D.C., I don't know that we're seeing a major decrease in crime there, which was his intention, because there was already a huge decrease in crime in the D.C. area before he jumped in when he said it's at an all-time high. Of course, it wasn't at the time.
It's interesting. Chicago is they're getting ready to kind of fight back, really. So they had demonstrations over the weekend. They had people who are like, we're getting ready to film. We're going to, when we have armed military coming into our city, we're going to fight back.
Right. And here's ABC News senior White House correspondent Selena Wang on Trump's response.
I pressed the president on why he's targeting Democratic strongholds like Boston and Chicago.
Mr. President, why target Chicago and Boston when there are cities and red states with higher crime rates?
Yeah. Really? Higher than Chicago?
There are, like Memphis and St. Louis.
Excuse me. You know how many people were killed in Chicago last weekend? 8. You think there's worse than that? I don't think so.
But FBI statistics show otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, you can get statistics to say just about anything from both sides. Whether how many people were killed, what's the normal rate there. But 8 last weekend in Chicago, the FBI saying that's not true.
Well, I'm not sure that they're disputing those numbers. The FBI is saying that there's a higher per capita crime rate in other places, right? And that's one of the things I think that Gavin Newsom has been doing in California, right? When he's been getting pushback from people in other places saying, oh, really? Well, your state has 3 times the murder rate that we do in California, for example, per capita, right? Per capita.
Right. And Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker said this, there is no emergency here that warrants the deployment of troops. He said in a September 4th post on media site X, he told reporters the state is prepared to immediately go to court if National Guard or other military troops are deployed into the city. So they're lining up. They're going to at least try to get an injunction against the administration from sending troops into their city. They can't do that because there's only a threat of it right now. But once the planes start coming and landing, then it looks like the state of Illinois is going to do something about it.
What's interesting too is that you've got people who have already done this, right? So we've already said DC is kind of its own unique thing because of the federal nexus there. But you have states that have said we have not asked for help. We have not called for the federal government to be involved, right? And that is where you're getting that pushback. That so far it was successful in California, but I think other states will jump on that just as well.
Right. And in that light, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson said, look, if the federal government wants to help, they should invest, not invade. What he's saying is there are ways to do this if you want to get involved in helping our crime situation, but sending troops in isn't the answer. And it doesn't go well so far, we've seen, with the local citizenry. And I know that crime is a huge problem in a lot of American cities, but I think people don't like the federal presence. I think a lot of people don't like what the image it gives to their city.
Well, right. And you have armed people walking through the streets of your city, and ICE in particular is wearing these masks, right? So it can be really disturbing. We do have a texter who says, this could be a test in Chicago to see if the administration actually is serious about crime and wondering if ICE will arrest and deport organized crime figures and hired guns, right? Those are the people that are supposed to be in the crosshairs.
But ICE may not have jurisdiction over those if they're U.S. citizens. You know what I mean? I mean, if you're organized crime or you're street gangs or something like that, I don't know. I guess federal troops, National Guard, U.S. troops can do something about that. ICE probably can't.
So I'm going to give you some crime stats from St. Louis versus Chicago, right? So this reporter said, this ABC reporter said St. Louis has a higher per capita crime rate. So in Chicago, the total crime rate was 1705 per 100,000.
Okay.
Make a guess on St. Louis.
I would say it's a safer city, maybe 1,500, 1,200.
No, it's almost 7,000.
Ouch.
It's 6,948 per 100,000. And if you look at just at violent crimes,
4 times.
Yeah,
four times greater.
Yep. If you look at violent crimes, 540 per 100,000 in Chicago and 2010 in St. Louis. And if you look at the homicide rate, 17.5 in Chicago and 54.4 in St. Louis. So they're not wrong on their numbers, right? Saying you're really targeting blue cities, President Trump.
Right. And so far, I think they've sent 2,200 troops into D.C. alone, and including support from a lot of other states. A lot of other states have said,
that's right.
We'll send you some of our people.
I think it's like, I don't know, I think it's like 17 Republican states have sent troops in. Yeah, so both St. Louis and Chicago in the first half of 2025 have seen a reduction in crime. But look, I know that you can do all kinds of things with data, but when you're saying we've got to go fix this problem of crime in blue cities, let's also say we're going to fix the crime in red cities as well. If we're going to be consistent, be consistent.
Yeah, and I don't know what Memphis is like. The reporter that was shouting out, hey, you should look at Memphis, you should look at St. Louis. There are other cities who are just as bad or worse, and why are we targeting?
Right. Well, I think
like
we know
said,
why.
blue cities and blue states. Louisiana, of course, different, but New Orleans, maybe not.
Yeah, so again, since you asked, Memphis, Tennessee, approximately 2,500 violent crimes per 100,000.
Even that's greater than Chicago.
In Chicago's 540. Yeah, and these are FBI data. This is FBI numbers, right? FBI. And then the murder rate again: Chicago 17.5, Memphis 40.6.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll follow that. We'll continue to follow that. And we're also looking at this in the face of Salt Lake Avenue's neighborhood, seeing they may see some changes as Salt Lake City seeks to update their community plan for the first time in 38 years. We'll learn more from KSL.com's Carter Williams after the break.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour: a man is dead after being shot in Sugar House this weekend. Salt Lake City police say the altercation started as an argument, but quickly escalated to a physical fight. Police say Cesar Gonzalez Juarez pulled out a gun during the fight and shot the victim multiple times. He then later went to police and turned himself in, saying it was self-defense. The situation is under investigation. Our top national story this hour from ABC News: the man charged with trying to assassinate President Trump on a golf course is in court right now for jury selection. ABC News chief investigative correspondent Aaron Katersky says Ryan Ruth is representing himself.
He's made some rather bizarre requests into his jail cell. He's asked for a putting green, which he called a golf joke. And he even asked for a round of golf against President Trump, saying if Trump wins, he can execute me. But if I win, I get his job.
Ruth's family says he has no history of mental illness. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints will celebrate a big birthday tomorrow. President Russell M. Nelson will turn 101 years old. The prophet submitted an op-ed for Time.com with his birthday wishes. He says there are two truths contributing to lasting happiness and peace. First, each of us has inherent worth and dignity. And second, love your neighbor and treat them with compassion and respect. Your money at this moment: the Dow is up just a point. It's basically flat, though, up a point, 45,402. Coming up, it's going to get breezy later this week. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 10:31.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Hot Tub Factory Outlet is excited to announce the grand opening of our 4th location in Saratoga Springs across from Costco. Massive savings on hot tubs, swim spas, saunas, and more. Happening right now at all 4 of our locations in Saratoga Springs, Draper near Cowabunga Bay, Station Park in Farmington, and Backyards of America in Sandy. Come celebrate with us and take advantage of huge manufacturer rebates on top names like Sundance and other brands. Plus, check out the latest swim spas, saunas, cold plunges, and hot tubs, all designed to bring luxury and wellness home to you. And it's not just Saratoga Springs. These savings are happening at all of our locations: Backyards of America in Sandy, Hot Tub Factory Outlet in Draper, Station Park in Farmington, and now our newest location, Saratoga Springs across from Costco. Don't miss the grand opening celebration and the best pricing of the year. Visit the Hot Tub Factory Outlet and Backyards of America today. Your backyard paradise starts here.
I am not a rich woman, but I feel like a rich woman every time I go in my closet. The best, hands down, present I've ever received was my husband secretly redid my closet with Closets by Design. So now when I go in there aren't all these shoes just junked on the floor. They're neatly sitting on their shelves. And my necklaces are hanging on their individual hooks, and earrings are in their little squares in this soft drawer that pulls out. It's just gorgeous. In fact, He saw how much I loved it. He had Closets by Design redo the garage. So now all the stuff, the tools, the toys, the junk is all in cabinets. When you open our garage door, you see cars. That's it. It's amazing. The things that Closets by Design can do, and it's going to save you money right now because you get up to 40% off plus an additional 15% off with 18-month financing. You can do so much with your closet, much more than you realize, with this wonderful Utah company, Closets by Design. Find out more at 1-800-BY-DESIGN or closetsbydesign.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account. Here's Heather Kelly.
Well, we have a tipster letting us know that State Street is closed right now, both directions between 7400 and 7800 South in Midvale due to a bad crash. So you definitely may want to avoid that area. Or maybe one direction is opened since they let us know. Otherwise, you've got a pretty good drive right now on I-15 throughout Utah, Salt Lake, and Davis counties in both directions. No problems on the east and west side belt routes or coming out of Tooele County. Common Spirit hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advanced healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with Human Kindness is here. Hello, Human Kindness. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, we're looking at 88 degrees as a high today and tomorrow, but it starts getting breezy. The wind will stick around through Thursday when a cold front moves in. By Friday, we could have a frigid 74 degrees possible, plus some rain in the forecast. Though right now it's 78 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Salt Lake City is looking to update the community plan for the avenues for the first time in 38 years. And we don't think, Holly, about the avenues as being an area that necessarily has need for updates and planning. There are a lot of affluent homes there. There's some businesses there that seem to do well. There's still a hospital in the area. And I enjoy going up to the avenues, and I think all of us who attended the University of Utah lived there at least for some short period of time.
I was surprised to learn that there's more than 16,000 residents who live there. It's almost a tenth of the entire city population based on the last census.
Right.
It's quite a lot.
We're joined this morning by Carter Williams, KSL.com. Carter, thanks for joining us this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And what can you tell us about this plan? What is it that Salt Lake City is thinking of doing with the avenues?
Well, it's kind of too early to tell what they're thinking of doing, but by the gist of it, it sounds like this is kind of, looking at what sort of long-range plans residents would like to see. Because you mentioned, this isn't really an area that you think of in terms of, planning and things of this nature, but there's this balancing act of this growing need for housing in the city, plus this, this historic neighborhood that people are just used to some of the things that exist here, including the fact that it hasn't really changed in decades.
Carter, what can you tell us about the buildings that are in the avenues? My impression is that they're all kind of old.
Yes, and you would be correct. There's a vast majority of the buildings that are in the avenues are, a century old. You're talking about a lot of 1890s, turn of the century sort of housing that exists there. And a lot of the newer buildings are also, starting to get close to the historic status of 50 years old because, most of the construction that exists in the avenues happened, before 1970. And then there's historic district status that a lot of the, especially lower avenues, received. So that's kind of put a stop on any new construction. So there's the reason why, there probably hasn't been much change in there is that, this is a historic area and people enjoy the historic buildings.
Yeah, and in terms of housing, Carter, I think you hit it right on the head. That is, you can only build where there is space to be built, and there's not likely to be an avenue to tear down any buildings in that region because of the historic value of the homes. I know as they continue up the hill and it overlooks the Chevron and the other oil treatment plants, there's some homes that I can see up there. But I don't know that there's much more room, maybe I'm wrong, about where you could build any additional housing for the avenues.
Yeah, and that will be one of the interesting aspects of what this plan will entail, like when it is created and released, just to see what that type of thing is. I mean, I think the biggest thing that could exist that you're starting to see in other neighborhoods is ADUs and these types of just add-ons to existing buildings that add, units and bedrooms that could, allow for some growth and maybe reducing some of the housing costs and some of the issues that exist there. I think that's one of the aspects that could come out of this. I think you could see more duplexes and slightly larger homes in that extent, but it would be interesting to see where that exists too, because a lot of these, again, have those historic protections. So it's going to be an interesting thing. There is a story that I did a few years ago about somebody in the Avenues who received an ADU permit through restoring like a historic carriage house that was on his property. So there's probably creative ways to add units in the neighborhood, but yeah, you're right. There isn't a lot of space for it, and I don't think you're going to see drastic changes just because of its historic character and some of the protections that exist.
I feel like one of the large buildings there is LDS Hospital. Is there any community sentiment that maybe that could be relocated someplace else?
Yeah, and that is, I think, the big question mark that exists. Intermountain Health, obviously, they've had a lot of interest in this so-called urban hospital that would be where the old Sears building was, just south of downtown. And there's a lot of just kind of reading between the lines that maybe that's where LDS Hospital will relocate, but they also have not said that they would relocate everything to this new facility. It's possible they could retain some existence in both the Avenues and this new facility. But there's also a lot of the things that they have proposed have opened the door for the potential that they relocate everything to this new facility that would be closer to downtown. And that leaves a lot of question marks of like what happens next to this really large facility that is in the Avenues. And that will be one of the things that I think not just the city but residents keep a close eye on, because at this point we still don't know what those exact plans will be.
We're speaking to Carter Williams from KSL.com, who wrote an article day before yesterday. Salt Lake City seeks to update Avenues community plan for the first time in 38 years. And besides the 38 years, Carter, was there something that we heard from city leaders as to why now or why they're doing this?
Yeah, I think they're just looking at every neighborhood and having a better sense of what the future is for each neighborhood, especially as the city grows. You talk about Salt Lake City as being, one of the oldest cities in the state, but it's also one of the fastest growing. In fact, the past year, it was the fastest growing city in the state. So there's a lot of, every neighborhood, I think, is kind of being looked at more closely of where growth can happen or how do we address the needs associated with growth. And, I don't think any neighborhood really is exempt from having some of the issues, whether it's the cost of housing or the transportation issues that are associated with more people in it. And so I think that's a huge reason why they're looking at this now, is that it's dealing with the same issues, and you have a plan that just has not changed in nearly 4 decades, and the city has drastically changed in the past 40 years.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was Carter Williams. And we're going to actually go really quickly to Corey Miller. She's with KSL News Radio, and she grew up in the Avenues. Corey, does it need to be updated?
Well, when Caitlin told me about this, I that was my question. I was like, let me read this article, because how does the Avenues need to be changed at all? Like, in my mind, it's perfect. It's the perfect place. There's nothing needs to be done. I think the hospital, though, that is a good thing to address. But yeah, the last thing I remember like seeing really being built in the Avenues is like some townhomes that they started building on 3rd Ave and N Street, where there used to be a gas station. And so I thought that was an interesting choice, because the guy who owned the gas station sold it, I think. But yeah, that's as far as I can remember.
Right. You mentioned the LDS hospital. Holly, did you say you worked there, interned there at some period of time?
I was a student nurse there more than 40 years ago.
I was just wondering if it was, in terms of other places you may have worked, if it's an outdated facility.
You know, I wouldn't be able to say now. I mean, I'm sure they've done a lot to keep up with it, and to keep, I'm sure, cutting edge technology. But that hospital is like an original pioneer era hospital. I mean, it was started a long time ago.
How many of our friends and relatives were born there? Right. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Look. All right. Thanks. Pivoting off of the Avenues, it's Suicide Prevention Week, and we're in Suicide Prevention Month. It's important to recognize warning signs and start the conversation with someone who's struggling. We know that can be tough. Huntsman Mental Health Institute shares ways to help, and we're going to talk about that when we come back after the break.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
This is Jeff Stout with Fink and McGregor Mortgages Made Simple. I know a lot of people are holding on to their low-rate mortgages. After all, who wants to give that up? While sometimes it makes sense or is necessary because of life circumstances, a lot of folks have been holding off waiting for lower rates. While we never know how long that will be, there is a stopgap solution, a home equity line of credit, also known as a HELOC. There are also fixed-rate second mortgage options available. A HELOC has a variable rate and is a line of credit that can be tapped, paid down, and tapped again as circumstances arise. A pure second is usually a fixed rate for a fixed term. We have details and we have solutions. Call us at Fink and McGregor or apply online at 4minutemortgage.com. Fink and McGregor, Mortgages Made Simple, 801-264-9494. That's 264-9494. Or on the web at finkmcgregor.com. NMLS 289115.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm, and Chuck McDowell definitely not an attorney. This is Chuck. If someone talked you into buying something really silly and you want to get out of that silly little thing, my advice, get the facts. Call me and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit absolutely free. Inside, you'll learn how timeshare works and all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your free exit info kit. 800-486-9600. That's 800-486-9600.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance supervisor at a manufacturing facility, he knows keeping the line up and running is a top priority. That's why he chooses Grainger. Because when a drive belt gets damaged, Grainger makes it easy to find the exact specs for the replacement product he needs. And next-day delivery helps ensure he'll have everything in place and running like clockwork. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, what are you waiting for? Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Mom and Dad used to argue about everything, especially about Dad's drinking. It drove me crazy. It got so bad, I couldn't do my homework. I couldn't concentrate. I absolutely refused to let any of my friends come to our house for any reason. I would have been humiliated if anyone found out how much my dad drank and how loud my mom screamed at him. My family went from totally crazy to quiet, calm, and even peaceful. The only thing that happened is my mom started going to Al-Anon family groups. Her relationship with my dad really changed. I asked Mom if she would take me to her Al-Anon meetings or to Alateen. I wanted to see if I could have a better relationship with my dad. I'm sure glad I did. If someone's drinking troubling you, you might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon or Alateen family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-ALANON or go to alanon.org.
Email from school about the incident today.
Scary.
Tell me about it. Did you have any idea that was going on?
None. I mean, you saw Derek at the game last night too. Did you have a clue?
No, but you know, teachers like me, parents, we don't always know as much as you guys do. Kids hear first about what's going on with other kids.
Half the time, it's rumors.
It can be hard to tell sometimes, but if you're ever concerned about a friend who's having trouble with alcohol, prescription drugs, bullying, violence, anything, you need to tell an adult. Mom or me, a teacher, coach, school counselor, someone you know and trust.
Dad, no kid is gonna tell an adult about that kind of stuff.
I get it, but if we don't know, we can't help. Speaking up about a problem, that's what helping a friend is all about.
For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Hi, this is Christina Ricci with RAIN. Every 2 minutes, another American is sexually assaulted. If you or someone you know has been sexually assaulted, you are not alone. Help is just a call or click away through the National Sexual Assault Hotline. Please call 1-800-656-HOPE, that's HOPE, or visit RAIN.org, that's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by RAIN and this station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
Today marks the start of Suicide Prevention Week, and it's also Suicide Prevention Month. And Holly, Utah is certainly not exempt from having the suicide issues. We've talked a lot about our young people, things that they're being exposed to on the web and on different things. But it's something I think it's important to revisit every once in a while.
Yeah, it's an issue as a parent, right? Where I feel like when I was growing up, I didn't know anybody who committed suicide. I'm sure that I did, but I didn't know about it. But now, like, we have just the conversation, right, of kids who struggle and adults as well. We have an average of 685 Utahns who die from suicide every year, and just the mental health issue is just such a. I'm glad we talk about it more, but B, I mean, it feels like it's growing, and I know I have a family member, extended family member, a niece of mine, who took her own life. It's been 5 years this October, actually, and it was such a shock. I mean, I just remember getting that phone call and my sister-in-law basically just screaming,
Yeah.
"She's gone, she's gone."
We're fortunate to have with us this morning Amanda McNabb, LCSW, PhD and Manager, Crisis Line at the Huntsman Mental Health Institute. Amanda, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
And it is an important time of year when we deal with suicide, especially as it relates to our young people. And I think obviously it relates to everyone, but it seems like we're focused more and more on the effects of things like internet, on bullying, and just what our young people are facing right now as it relates to suicide. Am I just reading that wrong, or are we seeing more of that than in the past?
I think we're paying attention to it more than we have in the past. You know, a lot of those things have existed before, although, of course, you know, with internet and social media, things like that, those are newer pieces to our society and to our culture. But we're starting to really see those connections and how those areas affect mental health. And so we're bringing more attention to it within our society.
So, Amanda, let me just ask you this. It feels like, at least in my experience, when you lose someone to suicide, it feels kind of like a shock. How quickly can that decision be made for someone? And is it impulsive, or is this something that people plan over time?
You know, it actually can be both. We have individuals that are struggling with thoughts about wanting to die by suicide over an extensive period of time. And we have individuals that will act very impulsively. And sometimes it's both at the same time. Individuals who've planned, and then all of a sudden that decision is made. This is my time to act. This is what I'm going to do. So we can look for the signs. We can look for opportunities to say, is this somebody who is struggling, and how can we provide them support? As well as occasionally we do have those moments where it's like, wow, this feels like it came out of nowhere.
And Dr. McNabb, as we talk about suicide, of course, hindsight's always 20/20, and we think, oh, the signs were there. I should have paid more attention to this. What can you tell our listeners about those signs prospectively instead of looking back? I mean, what kind of things should, and I know that the list is probably exhausting, but can people be looking at when they're dealing with people who may be in crisis?
You know, I think some of the big things that we're looking at are relationship-based. So are they connecting with their loved ones, family members, or friends, or are they disconnecting from those individuals? Have they talked about feeling more depressed, feeling more isolated from individuals within those relationships? Are they having different psychosocial stressors, or could there be some financial, housing, school, physical problems that are going on that might be impacting their ability to function? You know, human beings, we tend to try to hide these things, and we try to make the best of what we can. But even just saying, hey, maybe right now it's not bothering you, but when it does, come talk to me. Let's have a conversation. Let's try to figure it out together, because you're not alone dealing with all of these different stressors that happen in our daily lives.
I've seen billboards as I drive up and down I-15 that say something like, you know, who do you know that seems checked out, and can you ask them? I feel like there has been somewhat of a stigma that about asking people if they are thinking about killing themselves, harming themselves. Is that something we need to be careful of when we talk with people?
There has been a huge stigma for a long time that if you say the word suicide, you're actually going to implant an idea in somebody's head. And that's just not true. If you're asking somebody about suicide, use the terminology, use the words, and you're not going to implant anything. Likely, somebody is going to be more open to you if you're asking that question and saying, have you had thoughts about ending your life? Have you had thoughts about suicide? If they have, hopefully they trust you and feel connected enough to say yes. And then the two of you, three of you, whatever community you have, can work together in order to provide the support and resources that are needed for that individual to feel safe.
Can you tell our listeners about the 988 crisis line? Is it for individuals who are struggling with suicide ideation, or is it for their friends and family to seek help, or is it both?
It's both. 988 is there for anyone. We get individuals that are calling for themselves. We get individuals who are calling for loved ones. We get individuals who are calling for strangers, people that they've seen on the street that are struggling or appear to be struggling, because you don't always know what somebody's dealing with. But 988 is there for consultation, for direct support, whatever is needed in that moment in order to help support both the individual of concern, but also the individual who's reaching out. Because if you're dealing with a loved one or somebody that you care about that is potentially in a crisis state, you yourself are probably in a crisis state as well.
So, Amanda, if we are living with someone who is having suicidal thoughts, what can we do to make our homes safer?
In order to make a home safer, I would really look at limiting access to anything that can be used. We usually talk about access to lethal means. And so if you are living in a home with somebody who is having suicidal thoughts, removing any over-the-counter medications, removing anything that could be used as a ligature, removing anything that is a firearm, being able to limit their access, even if it's not something that they've identified as a means that they would utilize to attempt. We want to make sure that those things are not openly available because of that level of impulsivity that can happen when somebody is having thoughts of suicide.
And who's on the other end of this 988 call? I assume you have trained counselors, people who are in tune with this whole problem.
Absolutely. So everybody that answers the 988 or the Utah crisis line are certified crisis workers. They've gone through the certification process with the state, but they also spend quite a bit of time with my team and learning more about how to validate, support, the resources that are available, and really helping individuals to feel heard when they're calling in a crisis.
Thank you for joining us today, Amanda. We've been speaking with Amanda McNabb. Dr. McNabb is the manager of the crisis line at the Huntsman Mental Health Institute. If you or someone you know is struggling, please note that help is available. You can call or text 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Trained counselors are available 24/7. We also have the Safe UT app in Utah that's also available for loved ones and their families. And today, it's 9/8 on the calendar, so just remember those numbers, 988.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. An instructor for inmates at the Utah State Prison was arrested, accused of showing up to work under the influence.
The highway patrol was called to the prison when workers there say they could smell alcohol on Benjamin Fillmore, and they say his eyes looked glossy when he showed up to teach a class. The probable cause document says the responding trooper noticed the same things, and there was footage of the instructor driving his car. The trooper then did a field sobriety test right there at the prison and then took the instructor over to the county jail where he was booked under suspicion of driving under the influence. Randall Jepson, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. At least 30 people are dead and more than 100 wounded after a Russian attack on a thermal plant in Ukraine's capital. ABC News national security contributor Mick Mulroy says Ukraine's Western allies must place economic pressure on Russia's trading partners to end the war.
The question right now is, will Ukraine hold out for the Russian economy to collapse? If the Russian economy collapses, then this war could be over.
President Trump says he's not happy with the situation there, but believes they're going to get it settled. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 9 points, the S&P is up 14 points. And coming up, 80s and breezy, KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
If you need new windows and you live in Utah, there's only one choice. There are other window companies, but they're more expensive and their windows aren't made in Utah for Utah's ever-changing climate. Advanced Window Products has been building state-of-the-art windows right here in Salt Lake for 39 years. And since they're the factory, they cut out the middleman and you save 30, even 40% on new windows. Plus, right now as they book for fall, Advanced Windows will give you $2,500 off on 10 windows or more. They build the windows, install the windows, and guarantee them for life. And since they're right here in Utah, if you have a problem years from now, just call them. They'll come over. Advanced Windows offers 0% financing, buy now, pay later. They're affordable. Get your new windows and get the energy savings before we get to winter. $2,500 off Call them, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindows.com.
Comcast Business High Five Hotline. What's the state of your excitement?
I signed my business up for the 5-year price lock guarantee, and I can't stop high-fiving people. High five!
Okay, deep breath. You're in a good place. You signed your business up for 5 years of gig speed internet and advanced security, all on our ultra-reliable network.
Gig speeds and advanced security? I'm so stoked!
Yep, and you get it at a great rate that's locked in for 5 years. Woo! The high five is just your body's way of saying, I'm winning.
So this is natural.
High-fiving everyone you see in a state of business savings enthusiasm? Totally natural.
Sweet! Thank you! Thank you! High five, everybody! High five!
The Comcast Business 5-year price lock guarantee is back, but only for a limited time, so sign your business up today.
High five!
Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
Ends 9/21/25 for new customers with qualifying bundle. Current customers may be eligible depending on services and area. Guaranteed rate applies to monthly service charge, excluding taxes and fees. Other restrictions apply.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's MyStyle checking account. Here's Heather Kelly.
Well, we do have a closure of State Street in Midvale. This is both northbound and southbound between 7400 and 7800 south. All traffic being diverted from State Street, so you definitely want to find an alternate route in the area. Otherwise, you're going to have a pretty good drive right now. No problems reported on I-15 throughout Weber and Davis counties. You also have a smooth commute in Utah County on all the major roadways there, including finally on Pioneer Crossing coming out of Saratoga Springs and Lehigh. Traffic's rough, but your parking lot doesn't have to be. GoPave Utah keeps things smooth with expert asphalt maintenance at gopavutah.com. That's gopavutah.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Highs in the upper 80s over the next few days with a bit of breeze. There's a chance we could see a mountain storm this afternoon. Lows stick to the mid-60s. Right now it is 81 and sunny. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
It's hard to imagine, but Russia invaded Ukraine February 24th of 2022. It's been 3.5 years. President Trump is disappointed by the lack of response from Vladimir Putin, who he actually had a meeting with not long ago trying to end the war. But what we're learning is that recently one of the largest air attacks has occurred in Russia, involved numerous drones, missiles, and several people were killed.
Yeah, it hit down in Kyiv. It hit a government building there as well. And I saw some photos online of a young mom and her 2-month-old baby were killed as part of those attacks. ABC Chief Global Affairs Correspondent Martha Raddatz has more on this.
Russia launching the largest aerial assault on Ukraine since the war began, sending more than 800 drones and 13 cruise missiles across the country. Sirens blaring, residents running for cover, the attacks leaving at least 8 civilians dead and 59 injured. This woman saying she and her husband hid in the bathroom as their home was shaken by explosions. In the capital city of Kyiv, the main government building on fire. The Ukrainian prime minister posting this video in the aftermath, saying it looks like Russia is not seeking peace. The conflict now in its 4th year, dragging on as a political solution remains out of reach. President Trump has continued to push for peace talks, so far unsuccessfully, between Russian President Putin and Ukrainian President Zelensky. I spoke with Zelensky just days before this latest Russian offensive. He called on the United States and Europe to do more to end the war.
We all understand that we need additional pressure on Putin. We need pressure from the United States. And I said that I think that President Trump is right about that. Europeans, I'm very thankful to all the partners, but some of them, they continue buy oil and Russian gas, and this is not fair.
As for a face-to-face meeting with Putin, Zelensky says he is open to the possibility, but not on Putin's terms. He said he will meet if you come to Moscow.
he can come to Kyiv.
President Trump telling reporters Sunday he is ready to move forward with the second phase of sanctions against Russia, but it's still unclear what those could be or when they might be put in place.
And President Zelensky, of course, is talking about not only sanctions, but pressure
Right.
on Russia that I think if you read between the lines, or not even necessarily between the lines, he's talking about additional pressure, probably from NATO. He's talking about United States, European Union getting together and responding to this attack, because it's not getting better. And in fact, it seems, Holly, that since the President of the United States and Russia got together, 2 or 3 weeks ago,
I think 3,
in Alaska to talk about, hey, where are we going with this? It's only gotten worse.
Yeah, I think that's correct, right? There's just been a direct escalation, which I think tells you all you need to know about Putin's desire to have peace. And the idea that he would tell Ukraine's President Zelensky, come to Moscow, is laughable. And you can see that Zelensky, you can even hear it in his voice. He kind of clicked his tongue. He's like, yeah, no, he can come to Kyiv. He would not even be able to land and still have his life, I think, if he even said, I'll go to Russia. That would be a very not smart move on his part.
Right. And it seems that the United States is not going to be the mediator in this situation. I think
they
that
keep
the Russians,
wanting to be, right? They keep wanting to be, but President Trump keeps saying, okay, well, you've got to come to the table. Okay, I'm going to give you 2 weeks. Okay, well, I'm going to give you 2 more weeks. Okay, well, I'm going to have sanctions. Okay, well, I really, really mean it this time, right? But nothing has happened, and that's the issue, right? And that's where you see the escalation, I think, with Putin saying, well, I'm just going to keep going until you stop me, and he's not stopping.
Yeah, and 800 drones and 13 cruise missiles, numerous people
in
killed
one night,
and that's against the capital city and some major government buildings there. People killed. I mean, Russia is not letting up at all, and I think what they're trying to do with this nightly barrage, weekly escalation is finally wear the Ukrainian people down and say we can't do this anymore.
That has been right. That has been the goal from the beginning. And if you remember, when Putin invaded, he assured his people that they would march through the country and capture the capital city within 3 days. Now, the Ukrainians have been able to hold on to their country for 3.5 years, as you pointed out, but we also know that Putin is having to rely on now North Korea, China, India, and countries that can help provide them drone support, countries that do buy oil and gas from Russia to keep them afloat. They've basically decimated their own economy with this war effort.
And I don't know if it gets to the point where that economy gets so decimated that they have to come to the table. President Trump, when he was running for office, did make some indications that he could end the war quickly once he was elected. And I think he's tried. I think he's done some things to try to get the war ended. But he hasn't been particularly supportive of Ukraine at times when Ukrainian leaders needed that. He's backed off of his support for NATO, saying, well, we're not going to supply weapons to Ukraine. Effectively what he's saying, we're not going to supply weapons to Ukraine, but we're going to supply them to NATO, we're going to sell them to NATO, who may give them to Ukraine. What they do is up to them.
So on Sunday, there was an indication from President Trump that he was going to have some European Union leaders come to the White House to talk about next steps moving forward. But he reiterated again the Russia-Ukraine situation. We're going to get it done, he said. But he's been saying that since he was candidate Trump, and he's been saying it since he's been President Trump. And now, what are we at, 7 months?
Right. And I think the problem for both sides is, what does not a ceasefire, but what does the end of the conflict consist of? Does Russia just walk away and say, sorry, our bad? Does Ukraine say, well, you can keep this region of our country? I don't see either one of those occurring.
Also, no.
Yeah, I just don't see either one of those occurring. So what's the middle ground? Does Ukraine give them access to some resources or some things that they may want from Russia and agree to some trade agreements or something like that? I don't know. I mean, some smarter people than me are going to have to figure this out. Otherwise, I think it's going to get to the point where either Russia's economy gets so desperate that their leaders say we can't continue this, or the attacks on Ukraine get so horrific that their leaders say we're done. We can't fight anymore.
I I don't see either one, right? I think that if Russia's economy has not been strong for a long time, but it keeps getting propped up, right? So if you're going to have it propped up, then how long will that go? Well, China and India both have the ability to prop up for a very long time. And Ukraine, I think, until its dying breath as a country, will hold on to its independence, just like the United States would be if we were attacked by an outside foreign adversary.
Absolutely. And with respect to India, they're continuing to do business with Russia has caused so much concern with the administration here that they've really imposed some strict tariffs on India as well. That doesn't seem to have affected
it sent Modi right over to Putin saying, "Hey, buddy, here I am.
Here
we're going to be friends."
And that was a very important front that we saw last week, where we had the Russian president, a Chinese president,
that's right.
North Korea and India. Yep. They were lockstep. They were walking together. They were
literally in a military parade.
In a way that made you think that they are of one mind right now.
Yeah, wartime is always difficult, of course, and some in Ukraine have adapted. In fact, I saw stories just last week on Tuesday, school started, or Monday, I guess last week, September 1st, school started for children in Ukraine, and some of them, for the third school year in a row, started school in subway bunkers because they're not safe to meet above ground.
How do you even, no matter what your capabilities are, how do you defend against 800 drones in one evening? I mean,
drones.
Yeah, you just have 800
of
your own.
You have good drone operators. They can't get them all, but they do get a large number of them. It really, for sure, has changed the face of warfare going to drones.
And speaking of President Trump, he's pushing to bring back religion in schools, seeking to protect rights like prayer in the classroom.
I'm pleased to announce this morning that the Department of Education will soon issue new guidance protecting the right to prayer in our public schools.
We'll hear more from News Nation's Kelly Meyer after the break. That's coming up next, streaming live at KSLNewsRadio.com and on the app for KSL News Radio, sponsored by @YourServicePros.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have Leaf Filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
That's leaffilter.com/deal for your free gutter inspection today. See representative for warranty details. Promotion is 20% off plus a 10% senior or military discount. One discount per household.
This message comes from Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Journey through the heart of Europe on an elegant Viking longship with thoughtful service, destination-focused dining, and cultural enrichment on board and on shore. With small ships that bring travelers closer to the destination, there's more time to explore, and every Viking voyage is all-inclusive with no children and no casinos. Discover more at Viking.com.
Here's the tale of the daily Medfield. Same old pharmacy, same old bill, but those prices kept rising higher still.
Till the savings wrangler rode in, cool as can be. Tap GoodRx, saving massively.
No plan? Don't matter none. Up to 80% off. The deals are done.
Discounts hitting harder than Ma's chili. Dang. That one little app does all the rest.
Save time and money on prescriptions.
Check GoodRx. GoodRx is not insurance.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Do you want to walk, play pickleball, and enjoy other fun activities to stay healthy, but can't because you're in pain? Hi, this is Mike, and the Good Feet store wants to help you get out of pain.
I just had difficulty walking when I had the pain. I tried them on in the store, and my foot felt so much better.
Are you buying new shoes and inserts with little or no relief?
I tried all kinds of shoes. It was the arch supports that made the difference from the Good Feet store.
Don't let foot, knee, or back pain get in the way of you staying healthy and having fun.
Thanks to the Good Feet store, I'm bowling 3 nights a week, pain-free.
Get back to doing what you love. At the Good Feet store, we'll personally fit you with high-quality arch supports to maximize your comfort. Stop in the Good Feet store or book your free fitting at goodfeet.com. Walk-ins are always welcome. Make this the year you get active and healthy.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Tony Danta's coming to Provo in his hit live show, Standards and Stories. The New York Times says Tony's a live wire who radiates irresistible charm.
My mother would bring me back to earth with a very simple, hey, big shot. When you introduce me to Sinatra, then you're a star.
September 29th at the Covey Center for the Arts. Get tickets now at coveycenter.org. One night only at Provo's Covey Center for the Arts.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
Question: what will you find on all over-the-counter or OTC medicine packages to help you choose the right drug and use it safely? The answer: the Drug Facts label. This label lists the medicine's active ingredients and purpose, how much to take, and warnings you should know before using it. Remember, even OTC medicines you buy without a prescription can cause side effects you don't want. So follow the information listed on the Drug Facts label. For more information, visit fda.gov/drugfactslabel. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
The new Inside Sources.
You know, we talk about the First Amendment, the United States Constitution, and for the purposes of what we're about to talk about here, we talk about the Establishment Clause, which states that the government is prohibited from making any laws, quote, respecting the establishment of religion. Now, that has been battered back and forth for decades, including in the 60s when the United States Supreme Court weighed in and said that particular constitutional provision speaks for itself. So today we're hearing that President Trump wants to protect prayer in public schools. He delivered remarks today at the Museum of the Bible in Washington while addressing the White House Religious Liberty Commission.
I'm pleased to announce this morning that the Department of Education will soon issue new guidance protecting the right to prayer in our public schools.
He said that he created the Department of Justice task force to eradicate anti-Christian bias.
For most of our country's history, the Bible was found in every classroom in the nation. Yet in many schools today, students are instead indoctrinated with anti-religious propaganda, and some are even punished for their religious beliefs.
I think one of the issues, too, is you have to, first of all, acknowledge that any student who's ever gone to school prays in school. If they are a praying person, if they've got a test, they're probably praying, right?
That's true.
But we're talking about public prayer in school, and I was trying to think if I had prayer in school classes, and I didn't start school until about 1970, but I don't remember that. But I do remember that we could be paddled in the principal's office or even by a teacher, but I don't remember praying.
No, I don't remember praying in school unless you took a LDS Institute class or whatever else was being offered.
Off campus,
seminary,
that's off campus,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, but that was separate from the school. And, you know, we also have to consider this, that if you're talking about religion, what Trump's talking about is the Bible and Christianity. Of course, that's focused in a particular group. But if you're going to have some procedure like that where there's prayer in school, I think you've got to make sure that, unless you want to violate the First Amendment, that you've got to make it open to any.
Right. I think especially the conversation, the conversation about religious liberty, that it applies to all. And so a question that I had for you does this mean that people who are Muslim, will they be able to start bringing prayer rugs into school, and will they have an opportunity to pray at school as they desire?
And you can bet that the United States Supreme Court is going to address that. I mean, that's. I don't think you can open it to one and not the other. I mean, obviously you cannot under our Constitution and under our laws that have been supported by the United States Supreme Court. Trump is obviously talking to his base, and I appreciate that, his Christian base. And so he's directing his remarks exclusively to Christianity. But in terms of him and his Department of Justice, creating a task force to do certain things, you've got to make sure that it's open to all religions, or you're going to get shut down. And you may not be able to do it at all with the Establishment Clause, but I mean, certainly you can't exclude or a certain religious groups.
We do have a texter who had this comment. I thought President Trump abolished the Department of Education, so why is he now giving them orders?
That's true. He's actually seemingly doing it again he's creating the Department of Justice to eradicate anti-Christian bias. In other words, prosecute it criminally, perhaps, or at least to look at some other remedy for anti-Christian bias. I don't know what that would mean outside of criminal prosecution if you're talking about having your Department of Justice look into it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Look, one of the things that the President Trump has said is that he was speaking, and I think you said this, at a Museum of the Bible at an event there. But for most of our country's history, he said the Bible was found in the classroom. But we have states now across the country that are saying we're going to have the Bible as a text. We're going to consider it a historical text, but we're also going to have 10 Commandments up on the walls of our schools. So Arkansas and Texas and Louisiana have laws now that require the 10 Commandments be displayed at school, although there's legal challenges to those as well.
Yeah, and there has to be. I mean, whether you agree with it or not. And of course, most of us were raised in a Christian household and with Christian beliefs, but that's not the same for all of the country anymore. And it's certainly the numbers of non-Christian religious groups in our country have increased daily and will continue to.
So I think the separation of church and state, and you mentioned this, right, but that people conflate the practice of religion with government, right, if government has anything to say at all. And for me, my understanding has always been that the government will not create a state religion. So if you look, for example, at England, they have the Church of England. That is a state religion, right, where the church and the state go together. And of course, you go back in history, and the leaders of the church and the leaders of the country were intimately tied together. But in this situation, back to the founding fathers, there were several who were like, look, I don't want to impose a religion on this country in general. And I think that's wise, right? I think that people should be free to practice or not practice the religion of their choice. And that means, as you start to look at how does this apply in a classroom? Well, if you're going to have prayer in the classroom, you have to allow every religion. And I think it's the Church of Satan. They, like, every time there's a conversation like this, they're like, great, we're going to be there.
Yeah, and speaking at the Museum of the Bible in Washington, Trump said that he will defend the nation's Judeo-Christian principles with vigor.
When faith gets weaker, our country seems to get weaker. When faith gets stronger, as it is right now, we're having a very good period of time. After some rough years, good things happen for our country.
I think religion does mean good things happen for our country, right? But look, there's lots of research when we've talked about it on this show, but there's lots of research about religious nuns. And when you hear it, it sounds like you're talking about Catholic women, N-U-N-S, but it's N-O-N-E-S, people who don't have a religious affiliation, but many of them still feel like they have a spiritual life, right? And that they have spiritual grounding. And that's where you start to get in. We're not going to prescribe what you practice. And so if you start to have in classrooms, are you going to start to pray where you've got this rise of religious nuns with no religious affiliation? What about those people who are raising their children to believe in maybe a higher power, but there's nobody that they pray to?
Yeah, Trump doesn't seem to have any guardrails when it comes to certain things like religion. And I don't mean that facetiously, but he's clearly talking about a specific religion.
Yeah,
he's
he
talking
is.
about it, Christianity. He's talking about the Bible. He's
And
talking
Judaism, I think.
And I think he would do well to keep it as neutral as possible. You know, if you want to bring more religion into the classroom, that's a great idea. I mean, I think he's got to be careful about just opening up to all religions.
So we have News Nation's White House correspondent Kelly Meyer on for just a couple of minutes. Kelly, what can you give us as far as an update on this most recent speech by President Trump?
Yeah, hey there. Thanks for having me. So the president, he's now back at the White House after giving this rare speech really around the corner at the Museum of the Bible, and he really used it to highlight what he says is his administration bringing the country closer to faith during the first 8 months of his administration. He talked about what he's done in those first 8 months. For example, he said slashing federal funding for any schools that teach transgender education. He talked about banning gender-affirming surgeries and banning men from competing in women's sports. These are all things that Democrats have pushed back on and continue to push back on. But he talked about how these actions are bringing faith back into the country. And he did talk about the next step for his administration, giving this guidance to the Department of Education, where they will issue new guidance to, quote, protect the right to prayer in our public schools. And he also used the moment to really talk about what they're going to do ahead of the 250th birthday celebration for the country. He launched this America Prays initiative. So what they want to see, a White House official tells us that they want to see Americans dedicate time every week to prayer in the country. So a major focus for this administration on faith and what that means in the year ahead.
Yeah, so we're talking about the 250th anniversary of country, which is
the
coming
founding
up.
Of
yeah,
the country
founding
next
coming
year.
up. Yeah, next year, and he's talking about doing some things in anticipation of that. Is that correct, Kelly?
Yeah, exactly. So it would be that initiative to launch this, what they're calling, quote, America Prays, and that's to encourage Americans to pray for the country, and dedicate a certain time each week to do that. So really just trying to emphasize the role of faith and bringing that back into both the discussion over government and the country, and really bringing faith back into the picture, according to the White House, is what they're working to do. He also talked about bringing his own Bible, his family Bible, to the museum today. It was something that was used in his inaugurations, both of his inaugurations, and that will be on display at the museum. So really trying to show that this administration is bringing faith, or has been, into the focus, even though some of the positions, the policies that have been unveiled in the last 8 months have been pushed back on by many Democrats and other Americans in the country as potentially going too far in some ways.
I have one really quick final question before we let you go, Kelly. What about religions that are not Christian-based or Jewish?
Yeah, and it didn't seem like there was a lot of discussion around that. They talked a lot about the initiatives that the administration has been taking to fight anti-Semitism. He spoke about the shooting at Annunciation Catholic School and what the administration may do going forward, though we don't know any kind of congressional action that may be taken, if any. But it did seem like a focus really on both Christian faith as well as protecting the Jewish faith against anti-Semitic action.
Thank you for joining us. We'll be right back.
It's 11:31 at KSL News Radio. I'm Burl Johansson. KSL's top local story this hour. New details have been released for the USA Climbing headquarters building plans in the Rio Grande district of Salt Lake City. KSL News Radio's Brianna Willis reports.
New plans for the building would require USA Climbing to get an exception to the city's building height requirements. BuildingSaltLake.com reports there is not a specified height for the building, but the current restriction is nothing over 75 feet. The three-story building would include indoor and outdoor climbing spaces, a gym, office spaces, and rooms for physical therapy and training. They also plan to operate as a commercial climbing gym in the off-season, despite outcry from other local gyms. Brianna Willis, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The bumpy housing market has left many buyers unable to afford a new home, and some sellers can't find any buyers. ABC's Brian Clark explains.
Home buyers have had a difficult and expensive time over the last several years, and home sellers in some parts of the country are now having a rough go because buyers have more options. Active listings have been increasing each month, and there's been a sharp increase in places like Texas and Florida, fueled by new construction. Median prices have fallen by nearly 5% over the last year in Austin and in Miami. Realtor.com, though, says in the Northeast, supply is still 50% below pre-pandemic levels. Brian Clark, ABC News.
Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 21 points, the S&P is up 14, the NASDAQ up 115 points. Coming up, more of the same the next few days. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 11:32.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
The weather is cooling off to the lower 70s and 50s at night. Prep your home early for fall and winter with a call to At Your Service Pros, your whole home service professionals, family owned by people like you. At Your Service Pros cares about their customers and know things are tight. And to help with fall prep, they're offering $49 furnace tune-ups, $39 electrical inspections, and $75 off electrical repairs. At Your Service is all in the name. They're there for you, giving solutions without unnecessary upsell and backed by 5-star reviews. They want to earn your trust to be your go-to whole home service company for commercial and residential. And they support the community they live and serve. Save money, time, and eliminate expensive home utility repairs by using a pro all completely at your service. $49 furnace tune-ups, $39 electrical inspection, $75 off any electrical repairs, plus maintenance or replacement with straight up honest work done right, guaranteed. Call AYSP 801-YOUR-PRO at yourservicepros.com. 801-YOUR-PRO at Your Service Pros.
Do you know the secret to losing up to 1 pound of fat every day? At Salt Lake City Fat Loss, we know the secret. Our doctor-developed, easy-to-follow weight loss program helps you lose weight fast, naturally, and safely with no drugs or injections. No prepackaged meals, bars, shakes, or exercising required. Our program helps reset your metabolism so you can lose weight quickly and keep the weight off for good with an easy-to-follow maintenance plan that includes ongoing personal support. And our program costs half as much and works up to twice as fast than most other programs. Go to slcfatloss.com to schedule your free consultation now.
I'm Jeff Kaplan. I hit my goal. I lost 30 pounds in 7 weeks. I never felt hungry, never got grouchy. Most important, SLC Fat Loss is helping me keep the weight off with ongoing personal support.
Many clients lose 20 to 30 pounds in about a month or two. That's up to a pound per day. Schedule your free consultation now at slcfatloss.com. That's slcfatloss.com. Results may vary.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account. Here's Ricky Meese.
Valley Freeway traffic looks good with no problems, but in the Midvale area, we do have a closure in place. This is State Street. Due to a nasty crash, it's affecting both directions of travel near 7800 South. The road is closed in that area. If you need to travel there, you've got to find an alternate route. There's no estimated time. They're hoping to have it open by 11:45 in just the next few minutes, but right now, it doesn't look like they're close to reaching that deadline. Common Spirit Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers, all connected to advanced health care in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with human kindness is here. Hello, human kindness. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Tonight's high 88 degrees with partly cloudy skies. Tomorrow we have the same high, but a bit more wind. We start to cool down Wednesday and Thursday before rain, and temperatures in the 70s come back to Utah on Friday. Right now, partly cloudy and 82 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Burl Johansson from the KSL Common Spirit House studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Kind of a rough weekend. 6 people are dead in Jerusalem after a bus stop shooting that police are calling an act of terrorism. The shooters, 2 Palestinian men, were shot and killed at the scene, and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, during a speech given at this site of the attack, said they're still pursuing the suspects who aided the alleged shooters. We have with us on the line News Nation national correspondent Hannah Brandt. Hannah, thank you for joining us today. What can you tell us about this situation that unfolded over the weekend?
Hey, yeah, so this was the deadliest attack in Israel that Israel has seen since October of 2024. So obviously a big deal for the people in Jerusalem, the people in Israel as well. As you mentioned, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was there just a couple of hours after, and he made some remarks at the scene of the shooting where he said, look, this really demonstrates that Israel is fighting a very intense war on several different fronts. And he warned that in response, Israeli forces are really going to step up their operations and their efforts to dismantle Hamas entirely.
Hannah, what do we know about the shooting, the suspects, and the scene? Was there any significance to where it occurred?
Yeah, so this was during rush hour, the morning rush hour at a busy Jerusalem bus stop. And so that seems like something that was intentional. Certainly 6 people, as you said, were killed. Israeli officials say another 12 people were wounded, so a lot of people hurt here. And they say an Israeli soldier and civilian who were there at the scene actually shot and killed 2 attackers. But then Israeli police later arrested a 3rd person in connection with the shooting. Prime Minister Netanyahu says that they're still doing, kind of an ongoing investigation, that they will find and, prosecute any others who are connected to this attack.
So, Hannah, how is this playing with, we're coming up on, I think, the 2nd anniversary of the October 7th attacks. What is the mood there then right now?
Yeah, well, obviously, this ongoing conflict is challenging for both sides, the Palestinian people, the Israeli people. We know here in the U.S., the Trump administration has been working to try and negotiate an end to this conflict, or at the very least, a temporary ceasefire so that they can have, sort of more intense negotiations between the sides. But the fighting is ongoing. I mean, obviously, there was this attack in Jerusalem this morning, but there was also an Israeli strike on a high-rise building in Gaza just today. And Gaza's health ministry says that the hospitals there got bodies of 65 people that were killed by Israeli fire in just the past 24 hours. So there's a lot of death and a lot of violence that is ongoing in the face of these discussions, still trying to reach that ceasefire.
Hannah, as we're learning more about this, and it may still be early, but do we know about whether the Palestinian shooters were associated with any particular group or ideology, or did they have any sort of message as a part of this shooting?
Well, so you're right. That investigation is still kind of in the early stages, but so far, Hamas has put out a statement applauding the attack. They called it a, quote, natural response to the occupation's crimes against our people, but Hamas did not claim credit directly for the attack. And the leader of the Palestinian Authority condemned the attack and denounced, sort of all forms of violence and terrorism in a statement about it.
So, Hannah, I'm seeing a news story saying that Israel is vowing a, quote, hurricane of strikes on Gaza. What are you hearing about that?
Yeah, Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister, really issued, a pretty stark warning in his appearance at the site of the shooting this morning. And we saw him threaten more raids on the West Bank. He said that, his Israeli forces need to find what he calls nests of terror in refugee camps. Now, he's been criticized, and Israel has been criticized largely about some of these operations. There's dispute about whether they're going after the people that they should be going after. But Netanyahu says, look, our response has to be to intensify what we're doing to fight Hamas, and today's deaths prove it. That's his view.
We're speaking with News Nation's national correspondent, Hannah Brandt. And Hannah, can you tell us, have there been similar, and maybe we haven't followed them as closely, similar attacks within Israel by groups like this?
Well, I mean, since the start of this conflict, there has been a rise, certainly, from attacks by Palestinian militants in Israel. But like I mentioned, this is, the deadliest attack in Israel since October of 2024. So this one sort of stands alone, though there had certainly been an increase in attacks. And of course, there's also been a surge of violence directed at Palestinians as well.
Can I ask you about the people who live in Gaza who are not part of Hamas and some of the starvation that is going on there? What do you think the impact is going to be for them?
Yeah, I mean, that's really the question here, and we'll see how Prime Minister Netanyahu directs Israeli forces to sort of handle the operations that he's warning about in response. But that's been a concern, of the Gazan people, of course, but of the international community as well. The UN's humanitarian office has been paying close attention to what's happening in Gaza and the people that have been actively killed there, as well as the starvation that's ongoing. And in recent weeks, we've seen President Trump and the Trump administration say they're very attentive to and really want to.
We might have lost Hannah.
Yeah. Well, this is an ongoing problem, and it's a situation that just doesn't seem to be getting any better. And then, of course, there's always the pushback. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saying, okay, here we go. And not that he's held back with respect to attacks on Gaza anyway, but it does seem like this can only ramp things up.
Well, and here's the impasse, right? So Israel says that Hamas must free all hostages and surrender. And Hamas says it will not lay down its arms and free all hostages until Palestinians have an independent state. And Israel said that's absolutely off the table. So we are at an impasse here, although there do seem to be some ongoing discussions maybe with third parties. But again, it's one of the issues that we're facing in the world right now is you have these conflicts, and of course civilians are often caught in literally in the crossfire.
2 Palestinian men shot and killed at the scene of a shooting in Jerusalem. Another in custody. 6 are dead after a shooting at a bus stop. Police are calling that an act of terrorism. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, I know that name, is promising that there will be some retaliation for this, or at least he's seemingly headed that way.
Look, when we come back, you have to hear this story. There was a shocking discovery in a crawl space underneath a condo building. It's really a story. So what we're going to talk about is there was a man living in a crawl space under a condo. We'll talk about that after we come back after the break.
This is the story of the one. As a custodial supervisor at a high school, he knows that during cold and flu season, germs spread fast. It's why he partners with Grainger to stay fully stocked on the products and supplies he needs, from tissues to disinfectants to floor scrubbers. All so that he can help students, staff, and teachers stay healthy and focused. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Ready to order?
Yes. We're earning unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with a Capital One Saver card, so let's just get one of everything.
Everything?
Fire everything! The Capital One Saver card is at table 27, and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, Chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu!
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Join KSL Radio's Amanda Dixon this Friday from 3 to 5 at the Salt Lake NPS store at 1600 Empire Road. That's npsstore.com.
At Peach Windows and Doors, they help homeowners stay in the homes they love while upgrading to the elegance, efficiency, and natural light of today. With hundreds of 5-star Google reviews, their clients know Peach Windows and Doors deliver what they promise.
I wanted to replace standard-size French doors with a large custom sliding door. The update required checking a weight-bearing wall. Plus, I wanted a couple of different styles of windows. The new sliding door created a much brighter and open look. Peach was so helpful along the way with recommendations and ideas, and the installers were efficient and respectful of my space. I was thrilled with Peach Windows and Doors.
Give your $1 million home the $1 million feel it deserves. Don't wait on that someday project. Visit Peach Windows and Doors Salt Lake Showroom. Schedule a free in-home visit. You can also explore at peachwindowsanddoors.com or just call them at 801-566-1255. Peach Windows and Doors, where amazing home transformations begin.
Over the years, you've brought them into your home. You were prescribed opioids after the C-section.
When Dad injured his back, when your basketball star tore his ACL, opioids helped with the pain, and you held on to them just in case. But did you know holding on to unused opioids puts your family at risk? Opioids are powerful pain-reducing prescription medicines, but most people who are prescribed opioids don't finish their prescriptions. So millions of unused opioids are sitting in homes across the country. And tragically, more than 100 Americans die every day from overdoses involving opioids. What can you do to protect your family? Remove the risk of unused opioids from your home. Pills, patches, or syrups in drawers, purses, and cabinets, anywhere they might be hiding. To find out how to dispose of them properly, visit www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. The Women's Business Center of Utah has been supporting and inspiring entrepreneurs to achieve their goals for over 27 years, offering courses, guidance, and essential resources to help businesses grow and thrive. State Director Anne Marie Wallace joins us with more.
The Women's Business Center of Utah helps entrepreneurs in all 29 Utah counties with free advising and training and helpful resources, especially for women. We're excited to share that the U.S. Small Business Administration named the Women's Business Center of Utah the 2025 Women's Business Center of Excellence, the top center in the country. This award celebrates Utah's strong community of women entrepreneurs and the partnerships that support them. Each year, the Women's Business Center of Utah works with more than 1,400 Utahns, many in rural, underserved, and diverse communities. Our peer-to-peer project-based classes give business owners tools they can use right away. Our most popular course, Minding My Own Business, helps solo entrepreneurs run efficient, profitable businesses. Our monthly Suites and Strategies event connects women to resources, capital, and a supportive network. Since 1997, we've been helping Utah women grow their businesses. To learn more or get involved, visit wbcutah.org.
The Women's Business Center of Utah is helping Utah's economy grow by supporting entrepreneurs and small businesses across the state. Their work creates opportunities that keep Utah's business scene thriving and diverse for the future. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
Inside Sources.
Well, residents of a Oregon condominium building found something unusual. A man living in the crawl space underneath their building.
And no rent, right?
Yeah, pretty cheap.
You have to pay rent. Here's more from ABC.
It's like something out of a horror movie.
I cannot believe it. That really weird.
Police in Oregon say a 40-year-old man was living in this crawl space of a condo building without the owner's knowledge. Police say the man, Benjamin Buckor, lived here for what they're calling an extended period of time, transforming the space into a home, complete with a bed, lights, and chargers, even a TV. The family upstairs not realizing they had an uninvited neighbor, but they did hear bizarre noises coming from the space.
I mean, I never imagined that they would be literally outside under my house.
Ketzi Lutwig and her husband say they only made the discovery after a neighbor saw a man park his car nearby and walk to the back of the building into the crawl space. He saw a light on and knew something wasn't right.
Impressive, like something out of like a zombie flick or something like that.
Multiple neighbors say they've noticed damage on their own crawl space doors, as if someone were trying to break in.
My
Police
goodness.
say meth was found in the crawl space. Buckor is now held on $75,000 bond.
It's
what a surprise.
It's
Drugs
kind
found.
of funny, right? It's funny, not funny, right? Rent is out of control. Somebody found a way.
The pictures of this crawl space actually look like it was fairly well maintained.
Yeah.
He's got lights. He's got things set up. It's a big crawl. It's not a crawl space at all. You could walk around in it. It's a big area.
Yeah, he didn't have to crawl for sure.
Right.
So I'm looking at an article in the Seattle Times, right? And so they actually said, so this is a statement from the county sheriff who made the discovery. Quote, he had taken significant steps to improve the conditions of the crawl space.
Yes, he certainly did. And it didn't. The only thing I don't see in the crawl space is any water facilities or anything like that.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know what he did.
Maybe he went to the gym or something.
Right.
But yeah, it's just an interesting story. I've read a story before about a little girl who said that she could see like eyes. She could see eyes through the vent in her room, and her parents thought that was like the boogeyman under the bed, but they actually found a man living in their attic, and that was a true story. And this one is a man living in the crawl space.
That's a creepy story. Well, you'd think if you're living in the crawl space, you'd leave the noise level down. That's what they heard things. He's got a TV.
He had a TV. He had laptops. He had a PlayStation in his car, right? He did have some stolen property, and he had some meth.
Yeah, there you go. Well, not anymore. He's got a $75,000 bond now.
Right.
And he's sitting in a jail.
But you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if there are people who are like, "Wow, that's a great idea. I want to try that."
No, don't do this at home. It's trespassing. It may very well be burglary. Depending
they
on
did charge him with burglary.
Yeah, and theft of services for hooking into people's
power
and whatnot. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so today is National Dog Walker Appreciation Day. So I know you have a little dog. Are you the dog walker?
No.
You ever hire that out?
No. My wife is the dog walker.
Okay.
We have two. I'm the dog runner. I have a mountain bike, and one of our dogs loves running alongside me on the mountain bike. So she gets a great workout. The other dog, she just kind of watches us go by. My wife takes the dogs for a walk almost every single day. So I have to hand it to her. And I will appreciate her tonight when I see her. Maybe bring her something for being the dog walker.
Super sweet. We also, the dog walkers live in our house. So I have to tell you this. This is something I learned today. It's also National Ampersand Day. Do you know what an ampersand is?
It's that little squirrely thing that means and?
Yes, it's that little squiggly thing that means and. And this is what I learned. It's actually a conjunction. The word and is a shortened form of ampersand. I did not know that until today.
But it makes sense.
Does it?
So, question, you may not know the answer to this. If you looked in a dictionary, and would ampersand be
a symbol?
Yeah.
It would show the symbol, but it would also describe it. So one of the things that's interesting to me is I actually have an ampersand, like a wooden thing of an ampersand sitting on my desk.
Oh, you do on your desk, yeah.
Yeah, and one of the people with us, Cam, asked me, why do you have that? And I said, really, because when I was raising our family, people tried to present options to me in an either or fashion. You can be a mom or you can do this. And I always said I can, quote, live in the and. So I have this ampersand to represent living in the and. But I learned that it's an abbreviation, and I did not know that.
There you go. So
there you go.
You're not an or person, you're an and person.
I am an and person. That is correct. Yep. I am an and. Okay, so fun facts of the day. Now, have you ever seen Michelangelo's statue of David, or even a representation of the statue of David?
Of course.
Okay.
Right. Yes.
Guess how long ago it was unveiled? Even in the ballpark.
200 years?
Over 500 years ago. So It was on this day in 1504, so that makes it 521 years ago. Michelangelo's statue of David was unveiled in Florence, Italy. It really is quite incredible.
So I just have to say, when you give these stats for things that happened 400 or 500 years ago, I have to question, like, they have the day, like they knew, like some historian wrote it down.
Yeah.
Unveiling.
Oh yeah, the David statue. Look. So in the United States, at least on this continent, we are relatively young. We're babies, right? So if you go back to the 1500s, they had a whole series of system of patronage of the arts and who was going to hire who. And because he worked for royal families, there were definitely records about unveiling the statue of David.
Well, that's cool.
Okay, here's another one. And who were the first people? Actually, let me say this. Where was the first European settlement in this North American continent?
Plymouth.
Right.
Rock.
That's what I think. But actually, we're incorrect. That is not Plymouth Rock. It was St. Augustine, Florida, and it was in 1565. Right.
It was on this day also in 1565.
Yeah, way before Plymouth Rock. Now, we have another one. 1664, New Amsterdam became New York. So there was a European conflict there, right? Where's Amsterdam? Over in Scandinavia. I think it's in Holland, Denmark.
I remember seeing some old maps that called New York New Amsterdam.
Yeah, and York came from England, right? So
there you go.
So there you go. Now we're going to get into modern history. So on this day in 1954, Ruby Bridges was born. Ruby Bridges is still alive. Ruby Bridges was the first African-American child to start the desegregation process in New Orleans. At her side, she had to go to school with federal marshals to and from school as an angry mob protested. It was not a typical first day of kindergarten.
Can I just tell you how much it makes me feel good when you say 1954 is modern history? That's not too far from when I was born, so thank you.
Not too far. Well,
ancient
it's
history.
much better than 1664, right? Or 1504.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so it's also Star Trek Day, and the reason people call it Star Trek Day is because on this day in 1966, I was little. I was not even 2 years old yet. Star Trek premiered on NBC. It was really...
In what year?
1966.
Makes sense.
It was really out there, right? And then it was not that popular when it first debuted, and then later it became more popular, and then of course we have like a bazillion spin-offs that feels like
movies that have done incredibly well. Yep. But you still look at Trekkies.
Oh yeah. I
Kirk.
had a former cousin-in-law who was fully fluent in Klingon. Like they would go to conventions. He and my cousin, they'd be in full like latex makeup as Klingons, but he was literally fluent in Klingon, which I didn't even know you could do because it's a made-up language.
I wouldn't consider myself a Trekkie, but I used to love the show.
Yeah,
the TV
Some
show.
Spin-offs, super great.
I don't think I missed very many.
So on this day in 1974, huge day in American politics. President Gerald Ford pardoned Richard Nixon. It had ripple effects for the nation, but also for Ford. And if you remember, President Ford at the time said he was doing it for the nation so the nation could heal. And it cost him a chance of running for re-election.
But looking back, I think it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
President Ford was a very, very good man. And it did cost him. In fact, he didn't run after that, I think.
I thought he ran, but he didn't win.
Yeah,
right.
I don't recall, yeah.
Okay, and one last final fact. On this day in 2022, so 3 years ago, Queen Elizabeth II died. She was 96, and she had been the ruler for 70 years and a few months.
Right, and she was just a fixture there. I mean, she's on the coins.
Oh,
yeah. Like, people referred to her in all kinds of...
There's literally an icon.
Songs about her.
Oh, yeah.
Music about her.
70 years.
Yeah,
yep.
Pretty cool. And that seemed like it was yesterday. Did you say that was 3 years ago?
3 years ago already. Yeah,
wow.
3 years ago.
Well, when we come back... Well, actually, we won't come back, but Maria Shileos will, and she will be joining us on midday and talk more about the fundraiser for the 2034 Salt Lake